hold on. There's a wilderness in Texas and rolling hills. I don't know about this, man. I don't know, Joseph. What do you think? That sounds suspicious.
I think that, well, okay, what I know about Texas is, and I want to confirm that this is true in Austin because I've seen it in Dallas. When you go down your main street, is it really just a collection of bars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. And that is, yes.
It's just a collection of bars. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just a collection of bars, and you get
all
one
the
every.
bars, a comedy club every once in a while, or some other kind of like place, but still a lot of drinking going on at all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it was funny. My wife went down there a couple of weeks back for a training. She's a teacher, right? And she helps train other teachers in her local district. She went down there,
That's
and
cool.
she was like, "There's nothing to do down there. It's just bars, and the water is gross." And I'm like, "Dang!" Because coming from in Washington,
Yeah.
we there's a river 3 blocks away from me. Our water is super crisp. You could just whatever,
I do
you
love
know.
the Northwest.
Yeah.
There is something about the Northwest and how just gorgeous, like you said, like the water and stuff is. That's so
Mhm.
true. Compared to here, especially
Right
if you're
on.
here in the wrong time of year. Yeah.
Huh. Well, everybody, we're going to roll right in. SANDDAO Podcast numero 4. We're already at 4. That's crazy, man. I didn't expect to be at 4 by the time we hit Joseph and Krafter, but it just kind of worked out that way, where number 1 was with Hoddle and Andy Ritchie. Number 2 was a few days ago with Pepe about the Magic Palette. If you didn't see that one yet, I highly recommend you go watch that because that SIP is now live in the proposals. So the 14-day period closed with community comments. It got wildly rave reviews, and now it's pending. And I imagine in a few days or a day, it'll be live for everyone. So take a look at that because we go in depth as into how Pepe and I each answer our own SIP questions per the template. So you get to learn a lot about the background there. And then yesterday we did the same thing, but with Creator First SIP with Kirill. Not to be confused with Cyril, or Cyril. Kirill, Cyril, different people. So Kirill does Creator First. That one's about to close tomorrow, and then it will go for community vote after that. But this podcast is about the community reaction, and it can trace its lineage all the way back to May 28th, when the Sandbox DAO was suddenly thrust on all of us, and we were left wondering, trying to figure out what's going on. What does this mean? Is this a hostile takeover? Is it a coup? What is going on here? Turns out it was none of that. It was just a sudden onset of something that Seb and his team had been envisioning for quite some time, but for whatever reason, it didn't get communicated much before then. So clearly, a lot of stuff happened after that. There were a lot of reactions, good, bad, and otherwise. And I've been doing podcasting for a while, and I suddenly got the bug to bring it back. But this time for Sandbox. And what I really wanted to hear was to distill bite-sized perspectives from people about what do we really think? How do we really want to approach this? And thus the community reactions. First, it was Hoddle and Andy, just by virtue of convenience, and then Krafter and Joseph. Joseph, you and I don't think we really met or talked much, but once I heard you in an AMA a week and a half ago, I knew I wanted to grab you in here, and so Krafter was a given. You know, we've been talking in tweets for a little bit, so here we are. SANDDAO number 4, community reactions, numero dos, and the slides underneath, or actually it's going to be to our right. So scope of the talk. What is this one about? This one's about sharing our reactions. It's about healthy criticism. The thing that it isn't about, it's not about disparaging things. Healthy criticism is fine. That's to be expected. Disparaging, kind of putting things down, that's what we didn't really envision out of all this, but definitely sharing our perspectives. And some of it might be spicy takes. That's okay. It's just all about making. We're all here because we love the community, because we love being a part of what we got going on here. So that's really what it's all about. And then let's get right into the introductions. So, Krafter, we heard you're from Tejas. Introduce thyself.
Indeed, I am. I'm actually I'm actually very nomadic. So I lived in Austin for uh, 4 years, and then before that I did a lot of traveling, and now I'm kind of coming into another season where I'll be doing a lot of traveling. I'm actually going to be heading to North Carolina next month, but I am in Austin, Texas right now, back
Oh, right on.
visiting friends and enjoying what I enjoy of this city so much. But yeah, I'm Krafter. I've been a podcast host, streamer inside of the metaverse for the last like 4 years. I've pretty much just been obsessed with everything that's going on with metaverse and like Web3 technology. So I've just really like dove headfirst in over the last like 4 years. So it's been a whirlwind of a ride, and I've seen it's crazy like looking back, if you really like think about everything that you've experienced over the last like 4 years. If you've been around for it all, it's just crazy like to see what we've come from, and also like just see the same things repeat themselves over and over again. But yeah,
More things change, the more they stay the same.
Exactly. But I love it here. That's why I'm still here.
Welcome, and give a shout out too. Aren't you just started up the podcast for Spotlights, right?
Yep. So I've actually been doing Metaverse Spotlights for a while, but I've brought it back and started doing them fairly often recently. So Metaverse Spotlights is where I just highlight different cool things that are going on inside of the metaverse world. A lot of it has been focused on what goes on inside of the sandbox, because that's where I spend a lot of my time. But I also branch out to other games as well. Just always trying to find the funnest games and experiences that have to do with metaverse stuff. So yeah, Metaverse Spotlight, and then I have a variety of shows that I do that kind of.
You seem like a variety type of guy.
Yeah, I very much am. So Behind the Avatar is another one that I interview people, and that one's totally just hang out and who knows what we'll talk about kind
Yeah,
of vibes.
that's cool.
So yeah, we
And
do all
is
kinds of fun stuff.
what's is it on Twitch? Is that where they can find you?
Yep. So Twitch, well, I'm pretty much Krafter_ETH everywhere. So
Okay, gotcha.
Krafter_ETH, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and Twitch, YouTube. That's about it.
Awesome.
Those are the main places, anyways.
Cool. Well, thanks, Krafter. And what's up, Batman? Yeah. I see you in the chat. Joseph, Vision X.
Yes, sir. Man, all right. So let's try to do it in kind with Krafter. Born in Alaska, outside of a military base, moved to
Whoa,
Washington
Alaska?
State. Yeah.
All right.
So, my blood is running cold for the rest of my life. Doesn't matter, moved
Outside
to
Elmendorf?
Washington State as did you say outside of Elmendorf?
Yeah.
Because that is the Air Force base that I was born on, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild.
Joint base.
Okay.
Elmendorf.
Yeah. What? Okay, anyways.
I'm also military, so yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Okay, connected right there. So we moved down here to Washington State. I was like 3, and I've been here pretty much in the exact same county my entire life. And I bought a house recently that is less than a block away from my childhood home. So, in terms of what we're doing here, why am I on this show?
Yeah, Joseph, why are you on this show?
I got into the crypto space, and getting into the crypto space with my like $700 to my name at the time, working a basically minimum wage job at a Walmart store.
As you do. Yeah.
Around the same time, sort of said, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. I was a manager, but I'm making $13 an hour. You know what I mean? Handling like $700,000 daily transaction volume, getting paid $13 an hour. I'm like,
No
I'm
big
out of
deal.
here.
No big deal.
Started branching out into many different industries. I ran a shopping center at some point. I worked at a radio station, and got into the Sandbox in about 2019. Started helping out Alex Camisaze Flores on the official live streams.
Oh, okay.
From there,
Okay.
did community management for the sandbox for a while, which also helping launch the sand token itself. It was my job to know everything inside and out about what is this white paper, what is the sandbox going to be doing for the next 5 years. Um,
So
and
in many ways, you already knew this was coming.
yeah, yeah, this was part of the plan the whole time. Yeah, everything about the DAO was already pretty much drafted years ago because this isn't really telling us anything new. The only thing that really happened that was different than what we would expect is that it sort of just popped up without too much direct interaction with the community. Um, as you mentioned, right? It was kind of a surprise. So um, now that said, there's yeah, there's a lot of
Hmm.
nuance that has changed about the sandbox game over the years. And I've been there for each and every moment of that. So hopefully that can bring some unique perspective. I currently, along with Alex, own a company called the Council Tech that primarily does quality assurance for official sandbox content, um, among other things, including an upcoming, assuming that they have an upcoming season of content, we would be doing QA for that. Or if they, like they had the Game Maker Fund for a while inside the Sandbox game where a person could apply and say, I have a plan for this game, and the Sandbox might fund it. We would be doing the testing for that, stuff like that. So that's currently where I'm at the moment, as well as working on stuff for a project called the Wizzyverse. But I'm going to keep that one on the back burner until we're completely finished because we
I am a
announced it a while
new
ago and
I am a
didn't
new
get.
Wizzyverse person now. I got a hat.
Oh, very good. Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
I got the
yeah.
purple hat.
Those hats are pretty popular
They are
for
pretty dope,
sure.
man.
People
Got like
love.
glasses, wizard hat.
Yes, yes. And if
Yeah.
you, depending on what kind of character you use it on, like the way that they're mounted, they react differently in fun and funny ways. And I like, I
Hmm.
saw somebody wearing a purple Wizzy hat, but they were playing a game created by at not animated, um, or AOPE, I think is their username on the sandbox, and it was sort of like a Fall Guys like level that they had created. But anyway, the hat aligned with this like Game Boy looking character, where the eyes weren't actually like over the eyes because that character didn't have a head in a normal way. It was more
Gotcha.
boxy and short character, but really cute and fun anyway. So it's fun to see how those assets that, you know, Alex makes just to kind of for free giveaway on the official Sandbox shows get used a lot in the community. But we're working on Wizzyverse stuff beyond that to give additional utility to that stuff through, a 5-year roadmap. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I heard you talk about it at the SandFam Cafe. And
Yeah.
how you were doing it for private groups and partners, and
Oh
and
yeah.
then how you posited that you would eventually maybe want to propose a SIP where the community would pay for some of the budget to conduct that quality assurance.
Well, yeah. I think that, I mean it's a useful tool to the community to be able to have their stuff tested, and we already do that on the official, you know, the council tech on Twitch. We'll do QA testing regularly. This is actually my first show since doing a 24-hour straight live stream for a children's charity
Yeah, by
on
the way, that was
Saturday.
awesome. Nice job. How much did you
Thank
raise?
you. Not enough.
That's
My God,
okay. That's okay. How much?
like a couple $100.
That's fine.
Wasn't
That's
I
fine,
was,
man.
man,
You gave a
in
whole
years
24
past.
hours of your life.
Yeah, in years past, my team. So I've been doing it for like 11 years for this Extra Life charity group, and we have raised into the tens of thousands before as a team. But I think it was something. This isn't the normal time where I would have done a 24-hour stream, but it did inspire something. So that in to bring an extended for fun stream for those
Mm-hmm.
charity things more regularly. Though I gotta tell you, I hit an old man moment. I don't know. Like I was 18 hours in and just like, you know. And so anyway, at some point, my wife was like, "Okay, let me go get cleaned up, and I'll come back and relieve you for like an hour. You can get a nap and come back in and do it again." So
Oh,
um,
she's the
ended up
real
having
MVP.
yeah 3 different people sort of involved in that process just from my local, what my wife and her best friend were helping out.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's going to
Awesome, man.
inspire another show coming up. So
Awesome.
we'll do more things for charity going forward.
Nice.
Well, welcome. Glad to have you. And I added a question at the very end now. It was the plan all along, he said. That's we'll save that for if we have time at the end. So, I'm Lanzer. I've been in the Sandbox space about midway through season 1. So I've got my season 1 pass and all that. And once I kind of looked at what was going on around, I discovered that I went through this one over to Decentraland and some of the other ones that were around, as seen there was a lot of momentum behind this one, a lot of energy, mostly a lot of energy, and that to me bode well for its long-term flourishing. So that's where I started slowly dipping my toes in equipment, then dipping my toes in avatars, then taking the plunge in with land, and then definitely going submersed all the way was when I applied for GMF, and we're about to publish our GMF from last year about this month, if they can do the final quality test. So maybe your team's doing it, Joseph. I don't even know, but
That one's not me.
okay.
I have a very specific list that they were giving.
Yeah.
I would get assigned them like every other.
Yeah.
We would have Monday meetings. Anyway.
So Lava Defense should be coming out in the next month or two, and it's about surviving endless waves. I like making mini games, something that has a lot of repeatability to it. That was what Floor Droppers was. You keep on playing over and over, versus like the kind of the RPGs that you go through it, and then once you know the storyline, you can choose to play it again. But ultimately, so I like mini games. I have like 25 different mini games that I've spec'd out. It's just a matter of funding and all that jazz. So did that, and also we made Floor Droppers. So I'm president of Meta Worlds. Floor Droppers ranked 7th in Builders Challenge 1. So that was a huge achievement, at least for my sake. And I have a contract negotiation business background. So as I alluded to earlier, I was in the military for a number of years. I was pretty much the military's business person. So anytime they wanted to buy like an airplane or books, they sent me to go negotiate it and put it on contract. So I've negotiated with everyone from Boeing to mom and dad's ice cream shop down the road. So I've had a lot of fun doing that, and I loved it. So also ran my own businesses in the background, like novel publishing, music publishing to iTunes and Amazon and all that. So I'm in my element writing up these SIPs, of which I've written 2, and I'm almost done with my 3rd one. So I should have that done by the end of the week with the MetaWorlds team. And that's me. I've been podcasting around PlanetSide 2. People look into my YouTube history, they'll see a lot of videos on PlanetSide 2, podcasts and that sort of stuff. Ran a player organization where we would host weekly 400, so 200 on 200 players. And in 2016, we eventually broke a Guinness World Record with 1,000 players, the most players in an FPS match. That was the ultimate achievement of it was run by a community organization that I helped co-found and ran for a number of years. So I've been lurking in the background in the digital currency space until now, where I feel like my talents can be utilized in a more business proposal and business management type background, which is where I really love. That's where I thrive. So that's me in a nutshell. And I'm from Florida. So we got Texas, Washington, Alaska, really, and then Florida. So choose your weather. We're all represented here. Even Florida, which has only 1 degree of weather, which is super hot.
Hot and humid.
Hot and humid. Yeah.
You have raining and 80. You can go take a shower outside.
So that's us, Krafter, Joseph, and Lanzer. So disclaimer, none of us represent the Sandbox Game. Right, Joseph? You don't represent Sandbox Game?
Nope.
Krafter, you don't represent him, right?
No, sir.
We do not represent the Sandbox Game or the Sandbox Foundation. Krafter Joseph and I, we speak for ourselves as SandFam community members, and we are not your financial or legal advisors. Nothing we say is to be taken as such. So with that little administrivia out of the way, let's get to where we are now. The road to the DAO began May 28th, where it was announced via email. I saw it via email first, and then I saw the Medium article second. And SIPs 1, 2, and 3 were immediately launched for vote. That brought us down a well-trod path to today, full of fireside chats. There were multiple Mochaverse halls on Saturdays led by G. There was an AMA by the Sandbox Game, another AMA by Dr. Metaverso, who I saw in the chat earlier, shout out, and SandFam Cafe hosted one this past week with Joseph, you were in that one. And so a lot of buzz happened ever since May 28th. And in between that, SIPs 1, 2, and 3, they closed, they were resubmitted in order to account for land voting. And SIPs 4 and 5 were not. That was because of the Cyril explained that was because of the Snapshot website only allowed them to have 3 up at the same time. So they chose to resubmit the first 3. So that meant SIPs 4 and 5 closed on June 12th. They both passed with above 80%. And interesting fact is Sandbox did vote on one of those. So we can look at those numbers later. But SIPs 1, 2, and 3, the resubmitted versions, they did not vote. So that was pure community. All of them passed. SIP 3 passed with a notable 64%. And which one was that one? That one was...
Have been
That's the
budget.
money. Yeah.
That was the money? Yeah, the initial budget. So that one had quite a bit more of a mixed reaction versus the Sandbox DAO and the council being voted in. That one was above 80%. And number 2 was above 90%. I think that one was the foundation itself. Yeah, there is the foundation itself. So positive reactions on that one. And then we are here today. SANDDAO Podcast 4, after having 2, 3, 5 SIPs passed, there is now a new SIP. That is the Magic Palette. That's one that closed yesterday and is now open for today for voting. So get your vote in. Let your voice be heard. Magic Palette. Pepe worked really hard on that one and is ready to receive the community's verdict. Some interesting facts. So when we say the word SIP, we're talking about Sandbox Improvement Proposal. When we say the word DAO, we mean Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Voting. Every SIP requires a quorum to be eligible to pass. So before it even get out the gate, to be yes or no, it's got to receive 30 million voting power, which is approximately 1% of the the fully diluted supply. And then Joseph, if I get anything wrong, you're the whiz kid here, so just cut in there. Voting power.
Yeah, there's some fun facts on that right away.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, 30 million voting power. A land has 4,000 voting power for one land, and there's 166,464 lands. So technically, the lands have 20 times the voting power needed to reach a quorum. So if 5% of all landowners vote, no one who owns any piece of sand need vote.
That's fascinating.
Just fast
So
math. for
only
you.
5% of the landowners is what you said.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
So one
Theoretically,
sand. Go ahead.
yeah. One whale. You know what I mean? Who owns
Yeah.
some land? It'll be like, that's great for me as a landowner. Click.
I was just thinking that. I was like, who are the top landowners? I know a few that I know have
Most of the
Whale
brand
Shark.
IPs, right?
No, ironically, I think it's still Whale Shark that owns the largest amount, which is I think it says whales.me on the lands if you look at them on the map now. But I can
How did you determine that? Is there like a website or something, a crawler that we can look at?
Game.
What's that?
It's got just on Sandbox Game. I mean,
Okay.
Sandbox is the largest owner of lands, but as I'm looking back, I got to see if if Whale Shark still owns a heck ton of land. Oh yeah, they
Whale
still have
shark,
quite
do
a
do
few.
do do do.
It says
Whale shark.
whale.me. You can see him sort of in the lower right. Atari probably owns an approximate amount as well. So
Oh
if
yeah,
the
Atari's
two
got a
of
big
them
one.
voted,
That's what's that?
they
The
have one
24
of
by
the very
24.
large ones. Yeah, but they
Yeah.
also own another one in the
Oh, there he
top
is.
or middle right. But
Whale.me.
is around the
Front and
bottom. They've got
center.
a lot more.
Big old
Got a lot
whale.
more smaller in the center as well. Like in some
Yeah.
of the origin land sales, they've got quite a few of those larger parcels. I don't know if that's 5% as I'm just looking at it now, but nonetheless, a
Okay.
handful of folks could really make an impact. And it's important to note that the sandbox definitely owns 5% of the supply. So not counting their actual sand portion if they just voted with their lands. So that what you mentioned about I don't know whether it was SIP 4 or 5 where the sandbox did vote, that 24 million voting power is purely on the sand that they had because when they made that vote, land voting didn't work.
Yeah, let's take a look. I've got him here on slide 14. SIP 5 and 4 both had 4 million voting power dumped on it by the sandbox. And so that, I'm sorry, not 4 million. What am I saying? 27 million. 27 million. The next person had 4 million.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
So it's based on their sand portion, not their
Yeah.
land ownership portion. So
But
in theory,
yeah, in theory, and though Seb and Cyril both mentioned that was a mistake. So they said they do not want to be voting in the future. So they said, please forgive them for voting for 4 and 5. They couldn't redo it because of the snapshot. Couldn't resubmit it because of that. So we shall see. We shall see. I believe them. I give them the benefit of the doubt till otherwise. So 1 sand equals 1 voting power. 1 land equals 4,500 voting power. And SIP numbers. So far, there are 6. So it was 5 up until today. Now there's 6. Magic Palette by Sandrush is requesting the community's verdict. SIPs passed so far, 5. All of them have passed favorably. And there's 1 draft SIP available, Creator First by Kirill. That one closes tomorrow, and that will be up for vote after that. I have 2 that I submitted. I don't know how many else everyone else has submitted, but I at least will count myself. I've submitted 2, currently undergoing the back and forth between us and the project team before it goes to the draft SIP count. Nice. Mine is Windows resizing for end resolution options. You know how we can't resize anything, especially Game Maker. So resizing that, and the second one is to create a roadmap for Sandbox releases, client launcher, Vox edit, all that. Tidbits.
That would be nice. It would help people plan.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too, man.
Roll out.
I've got 20 experiences that I spec'd out, knowing which ones give me the capability because each of them have a different focus. That would be very helpful. That would be very helpful. All right.
There on that subject, real quick. There's got to be like an internal roadmap, right?
Like that's what I thought.
I've never ran like a gaming company, but like
normally you would. Normally you would.
There's an internal roadmap, and the question is, and the thing you always have to fight with is, does something go wrong? If so, then kick the can down the road, right? Mm-hmm. So when you release a roadmap that says, I'm going to add ranged attacks, let's say, because that's been in the roadmap for 4 years, how does that get impacted by other demand? And so one of the things that I think that the DAO can help with, hopefully, is to how do I put this in a constructive way?
You can put it in a non-constructive way first.
The creativity of the executives. That's what I would like to do here. If you
say that one more time.
If you want to have a sufficient roadmap to help the devs, you have to limit the creativity of the executives of the Sandbox game. Yeah, like the DAO has to, in some way, be able to tell them no. Right. And I don't know, like the infrastructure and the way this is set up right now, I don't think that's possible. But I'll give you an example. Snoop Dogg, one of the larger partner landowners. We've seen events come out for Snoop. They've had contracts with Snoop, details of which I can't express in any way. Snoop Dogg content needed a feature for a music video or a live concert to be possible in the game. So multiplayer interconnectivity, player to player, got pushed off in favor of developer work on having essentially like a YouTube or a live feed injection
Gotta pay the bills.
inside. Yeah, sure.
I'm sure there's money at stake. Yeah,
There are definitely reasons and good reasons to
sure.
do that. However, you know, this is what I'm talking about, right? If you want a roadmap for, which I think is important, I would 100% agree. You're not the only dev who's asked for that. Basically, every single dev who was in the Game Maker Fund asked for that. The only way to do that is to limit the creative options that come from the outside so that someone who's talking to the next Paris Hilton doesn't say, yes, we can do that, to whatever it is they want before they already can do that, right? Because you'll run into that problem where they may be like, yeah, we could definitely inject this feature that you want, but it's not done yet, right? And then they got to push something off and kick the can down the road. When really what you want to have, and this has been better for the Sandbox game recently, is you want to have people who just they say this needs to be done in 6 weeks, go, and then they can have that on a roadmap or whatever. So anyway,
I'm
wanna
currently, so I said I was a contract negotiator in my past life. I'm currently a program manager of projects, and so I have a large portfolio of projects, and roadmaps are one of the mechanisms I use. My take is that a good roadmap can account for changes, delays, adjustments. That is the whole point, is to demonstrate what is to be expected when things happen. It's not a matter of if things happen. It's always a when.
Yeah.
You know, a good plan is a great plan until something wrecks it, and then you've got to develop a better plan or adjust to the reality of things. That's okay. That's allowed to happen. With the business, things happen like that. Opportunities come, you want to take advantage of them. It's the communication factor that isn't there that I want to be there. So what I proposed was either make one that's internally available to the public, or say if there isn't one, which there probably is, Sandbox thing can create one, or MetaWorlds can create one for you, because I have project management experience for days when it comes to that. And we can, kind of pivot table, macro Excel formula, something that's easy in real time that can be adjusted on the fly. And then all you need to do is snip or copy paste it and done so. So there, I had different options that Sandbox can choose from, but the SIP is basically, does the community want this? If so, here are the options that Sandbox team can choose from. And I've got no stake in the game. I'll create it for them if they'd like. I need the access to that, and then easy peasy. Got a dev team that can make that happen. But I would expect that roadmap can account for changes. Otherwise, it's a nice visual that is obsolete 2 seconds after it gets published.
Like everything in 2021.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, like I said, that's the, for the SIP, I think that's important. And if it gets passed, I think that is important as well, because then it sort of forces the hand of the executives to say, okay, yeah, we made a roadmap and now we have to uphold it potentially, right? And then it also gives us as a community more of an awareness of, their alignment versus their execution, which is also important because, as you alluded to, and so I pulled it back up. I've got the original white paper and going through it on my screen. There are things that you see in there that are like, okay, that's happening now, and it's almost the very end of this. Or I mentioned, I think on my last podcast, that one of the things in this white paper is like the game will come to mobile in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the game will come to consoles in 2023. Something like that. Maybe it was 2020.
So I've run a lot of programs, and some of mine were really on time. Some of them were ahead of schedule, and then some were years off schedule, delayed. It it was always about messaging. It's not necessarily bad that things delay.
True.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If you have good reasons for it, if they're acceptable, if there's a plan to mitigate it, to overcome it, we get it, man. Life happens.
Right.
So,
Right.
but the failure to communicate means that every single one of those 800 plus partners that Seb said were part during NFC Lisbon, and every single one of those 350,000 creators that he listed has no idea what to do with their business and and I've got to
Yeah.
raise capital too. I've got
Right.
financing I got to secure. I've got seed investors. I've got responsibilities and stakeholders. And when I can't communicate when things are coming, it limits
Right.
my potential, and it's
Yeah.
hurting. I'm struggling
Yeah.
as a studio just like everybody else is.
Yeah. I'd
So
be excited to see
please
that
communicate.
roadmap.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, a project management team worth its salt isn't scared to death of delays. They just know they have to deal with them. That's the difference. I don't know, I'm off my soapbox, but I'm passionate about it, man. I'm passionate. Just
Uh,
just
I mean,
just communicate it.
yeah, the communication I think is what I've always said boils down to a lot of things with the sandbox that uh, seem to have could have been avoided. A lot of things that turn into uproars and
Yeah.
upset fans basically is
14-day notice
all
on Builders Challenge 1.
avoidable. Yeah, there's one, but but yeah, I don't know. That's something that needs to get figured out, and I think maybe having a roadmap or something just out there, just that
Yeah.
is easy for everyone to just look at it, and then obviously then having to communicate about how things are going, and if things are off track, that's fine. Just let us know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's I don't know. That
And
it seems like
if
such
it
a
goes
simple
down
solution.
if it goes down easier, it will create problems. Like there's no doubt that when you give people communication, you give them knowledge and power, you give them the power to turn that around back on you. All right, when you communicate a roadmap, it will make your life more difficult. All right, that's a fact. But what it does in spades in return is the trust that you build with the people who are invested in your community, invested in their time, effort, and energy into playing the game and organizing things like this and networking. You build trust, you build confidence, and in this game, that is a big deal. Why would I use Sandbox over Decentraland? Why would I use it over Axie Infinity? Why? Because right now lands are going down, or they've been at 0.1 ETH for a while now. It doesn't look good. When I heard Captain's podcast the other day, they all thought Sandbox was dead. Captain doesn't think it'll ever return. I don't agree with
Dude,
him, but
there's so I know
yeah,
that a lot of the SandFam are kind of in the SandFam, and that's where they hang out and what they pay attention to. But I don't. I am out there and listening to a lot of other people talk and participating in those conversations. And whenever Sandbox gets brought up, it that is the reaction. Sandbox is dead. It's not coming back. No one really thought Sandbox was cool in the beginning in these circles. Like so like that, which is part of it. Which is part of it. They're already leaning away from it, but it's just it's not relevant anymore, and that's a I don't I don't know if that's a huge issue at this point.
I don't think so.
Maybe it's
I don't think
fine to
so.
just be unrelevant right now and just build something good and and then get the attention of everyone again.
Right.
Maybe that is okay,
Yeah. Well,
but
I can tell you. So I was at NFT NYC representing the Sandbox in 2022. Yeah, I can't remember. And something like that. Anyway, I'm standing on the conference floor at the booth, right? And I had somebody come up to me and they were like, "Oh, it's a Sandbox. I played that once." And I said, "Well, when did you play it?" They said, "Well, I played in season 1." And we were launching season 3 like right after that, right? And I said to them, "Okay, well, so when you played the game, I mean, for lack of a better word, I sucked,
I was
You
gonna say
know,
suck.
there was
Correct.
3 or, there was what? 1 main hub and a couple small branches off of it, and a total of, like, 16 experiences, all of them were kinda
Yeah,
half-assed,
yeah.
right? And, the I'm like, "Season 3 has 90 experiences coming, 90 plus in it." And they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yes, and they include games such as blah, 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 whatever." Like, good stuff, even stuff that was previously had won in game jams that were just fun and interesting. And, the game has changed in like a generational way. And when I just broke down like the things that I knew were their problems in season 1 that had been fixed just in season 2, they were like, "I didn't even know that Sandbox did all that." And I think part of part of the good thing when you think about like what a roadmap might do, that can garner people's attention. But also, I constantly look at these spaces that are considered metaverses, and if I take out the mechanic of play to earn, right? And I just say, who's doing it better? I don't know that that exists. Like, I think the sandbox is still doing it the best, despite all the things that anybody might say. When you look at ease of access for developer, I think it's there. It's not perfect and it can be better, but it's there. Um, when you look at the fact that, like, I can tell my wife must be watching something with our friend in the background, so forgive me for the giggling. But the when you look at the way that Decentraland does the metaverse, right? Everything is all in one sort of instance, which in one part is indicative of uh, their lack of a player base. Quite honestly, like if you look at their daily active users, I think it's proven that they have fewer, because you see the one problem with not having instanced content is that if you wanted a medieval theme, you're going to be right next to a techno rave, which is right next to a casino in Decentraland. And so there's no cohesion. And there's also, it's really easy for your player to not be able to be focused on the content that you want them to be
I
immersed
don't think I've ever thought of it that way before.
in your space. And the Sandbox game fixes that by being instanced. Downside to the Sandbox game versus other metaverses, other side, which is not in public development at this point, already technologically is far and away better than the Sandbox game. They use the same tech that Star Atlas is using that allows for thousands of players to be in a single instance, um, and with no friction. Star Atlas is doing it even better because all the things you do individually end up recorded on chain. So there's no saving and no need for, whatever. Anyway, so
Hmm.
the Sandbox game can leverage all of this knowledge because it is all publicly known. See the tech? Right now, the Sandbox has a cap of 20 people that can be in one instance. Why they don't reach out to the team that's helping the other side, I have no idea. They did it all in house. And I was there pushing the limits when they first introduced it on a live show with Panda Pops, where I think we crashed the server at 250 people and then worked backwards while the dev was watching. Like they were like, okay, I'm gonna turn the cap off, go. And we had one crash at like 120, and then we had another crash at like 250 or somewhere in there. Like, whatever the number was. This is during season 3. So, the tech is way behind in some regards, but the ease of access for devs is way up there. And so the things that I have mentioned that I want to see the sandbox focus and change on is really just about incentivizing developers to develop here, and then making sure that development can continue. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll get into
Yeah,
that more later.
I I agree with that sentiment
Yeah,
though. It's
I
tough.
would
It's
love to build more,
tough
but
to
that
instant or go
go
for
ahead.
it. No, I'm just mumbling.
That Catalyst 2.0 and then GMF 2024 eviscerated my ability to be self-sustaining. I'm
Hmm.
gonna do a podcast on that because I kept the numbers and all the accounts that showed how I was not able to be self-sufficient. It's fascinating. It's fascinating
Yeah.
how one I have a model for before Catalyst 2.0 hit and before GMF 2024
Uh-huh.
hit, and then I have a model after, and you can just see it tank. My costs skyrocket, and my profitability goes way down because of the catalyst change, and that I still don't know how I'm going to solve that problem, because even though I ranked 7th in GMF, or not GMF, Builders Challenge 1, I got 10,000 sand, and it cost me 20,000 to make. So,
Yeah.
whoops.
Right. And that's the
20,000 USD to make. So that's 40,000 sand
yeah.
ish, because 33
Yeah.
cents or fluctuation, all that jazz. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think that's the core of it that needs to be solved. And I've got my own SIP to produce to help you solve that problem. And
Oh,
hopefully
thank you. I
people
appreciate
will
that.
approve of that. Because I know the solution to fixing catalysts and gems. Gems don't exist now; they're just catalysts. This is how long I've been around, right?
Right. I
Like,
guess that shows mine too, because I.
yeah. So there was a subsystem that was in the background where the power and the speed and the magic and the
Luck.
luck, yeah,
Luck was my
all of
favorite.
those, you used to have a gem respective to all those traits and a catalyst to have a number of slots. So now they reduce that down to just catalysts with their individual rarity types. But really, I see that as just a friction for devs. You know that financially is a friction, but it's a friction in another way as well that can be simplified. But anyway, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We got a lot of
All these rabbit trails we could go down, they're all their own podcast
Man.
episodes. But
Yeah.
it was 20,000 USD, and that was on the cheap, and cost sharing and revenue sharing. That's how I was able to churn it out in 14 days. Well, shout out to
My
Meta
God.
Theory Studio. Love them to death. They're great. All right, so let's actually get into these questions here, huh? All right, reactions good and bad. I've heard y'all's reactions before, but just go ahead and say them. Krafter, what was your reaction to the Sandbox DAO announcement and then everything thus far?
I feel like I guess I haven't really thought about this since it really went down, but I feel like my initial reaction to the announcement was, of course they didn't tell us about this.
Okay.
And then my reaction was, I wonder if this is going to work. Because I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of DAOs not.
Where you're
work
going through
way
the stages of
that
grief.
that you would like them to work. Yeah. So then I was like, oh, maybe this will work. And then from there, it's been kind of a, I don't know, just like a slow incline walking up a hill that feels like I'm walking in the right direction with everything. I don't.
Okay.
It's so I'm like cautiously skeptical about it. Does that make sense? Cautiously.
Yeah. No, that makes
skeptical.
perfect sense.
Sure. Yeah. So that's how I feel about the DAO now. Is that I think it has potential, and I think it could do a lot of good things. I have also seen just like a lot of ways that DAOs play out with whale interaction that is unfortunate, because I see all kinds of things not get approved that I think should get approved, and I see a lot of things that get approved that I'm like, what the fuck is going on in this world?
Which, by the way, is another episode that I wanted to drag you in on, was what lessons we learned from other DAOs. So TBD.
Yeah, that would be a good one. But yeah, cautiously skeptical, I think, is a good reaction to my
Okay.
grieving state right now.
All right, Joseph, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Okay. So my hot reaction right off the bat was, who the fuck are these people? Okay. Now,
Mine
I'm going to
too.
leave that as a caveat because that's point number 3. So I'll leave that in the wind there. But
I completely forgot about that, but
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So obviously I knew Seb, and I think everybody knew Seb. I knew Yatsu because they are the parent company chairman, right?
I did not know that until I read into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think those are fine choices. I'm going to say fine. I'm not going to say good or ideal. I think that the advisory board, no, no, the advisory board is the lesser folks. Forgive me. Special
Yes.
counsel are the ones that get paid. Um,
Yeah.
Special counsel board is lacking someone who works with the people.
Yeah.
I think
The people's
Um,
choice.
you've got when I looked into them, and this is off of the hot reaction. This is more detail. When I looked into them, they really just seem like folks Seb knew. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
two people who own businesses based out of Paris, where the Sandbox's parent, or the Sandbox's primary offices are, and one person who ran one good program with the Sandbox, which is, you know, for the most part, they're fine people. In fact, I find that the World of Women's chief operating officer, I believe, is what it is, what her role is.
Yeah,
She's
Shannon.
yeah, very very good.
Yeah, I looked into
As a
her after
choice.
that because I own a WoW, so I was like,
Yeah, right.
okay.
But now, but it also lends to how the advisory board is selected, right? Because Loretta Chen, who's a fantastic person and a great representative of the Sandbox at conferences, created the World of Women experiences with their dev team.
Loretta
And
Chin did?
so I believe so, yeah. I
Huh.
forget the name of their
Okay.
team, but nonetheless,
That's
and
fascinating.
that's
I didn't know
awful
that.
of me because I did an interview for the Sandbox of her leading into Alpha Season 3, so I feel awful about that, but my memory is just bad like that, quite frankly. But the folks who are on the advisory board, I thought were all really smart. In a sense, in the sense that they know the product in the same way that you would know the product, Lanzer. They use it every day, so they're gonna have from the dev side, they're gonna have a good idea of what needs to be approved. However, again, hot take, initial reaction. Everybody who's on the special counsel is getting paid a decent amount to just turn a key. They're not really doing anything. And more importantly, none of them have time to actually care or pay attention because
Right.
they're all
That was another thing.
C-suite level members of companies.
Their involvement.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and especially Yatsu, who's in
I was
charge
gonna
of
say
the team,
Yatsu
in
is
charge of 200 plus companies
One of the
that are in
largest
charge.
presences
Yeah,
in the whole crypto space. Sure, yeah.
yeah, and Yat had to back out of the Ape DAO at some point as a
I was
result
gonna
of them
say
just being too damn busy. So
yeah.
how does that work here? You
It
know?
already
Mm,
played out once. I
fair
don't know why
point.
we're doing it again.
Well, I did
Yeah,
in the tidbits, slide 7, I did put Cyril did mention and there we go. I was confusing Kirill and Cyril at that point. Cyril mentioned during his June 4th AMA, we selected the initial council members and special advisors from those we trusted to help guide us in those initial stages. So I think you were
yeah,
right on the money.
yeah. I mean, it's going to need adjustment, but that said, when you look at a little bit later, they got approved for these SIPs for these people to be running the show. Okay, and I think that helped a lot when they had the conversations that they had in the first AMAs. It didn't look great that they didn't have everybody show up to AMA number 1.
I was
It
gonna
was
Sure.
kind
say
of
Yeah.
proof that they're too damn busy to do this.
yeah.
Um,
I think
but
that
at
was
the same time, yeah.
a red
Go ahead,
flag.
Crafter.
Well, I mean that's the biggest thing that I've seen from them is, and yeah, they do have impressive resumes, and but
Yeah.
they're busy as hell, like because they're doing all kinds of things and managing businesses and all like I don't know, it just doesn't. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
understand how they're going to have any
Yep.
time to do anything good for the DAO. And I feel like at this stage, maybe like yes, you want trusted people that are going to steer things in the right direction. That is very true. But you need people that are involved at this stage that are making things happen. And I feel like it's just gonna play out the same way I've seen again other DAOs is that like it takes years for it to get going and actually functioning
Hmm.
in a good rhythm, and it just I don't think it has to be that way if you if you actually have the right people in place to make things happen.
Yeah, it might just be me I'm speaking for, but now that I'm reaching my mid-30s, when I was younger, I ran like multiple companies. I was in multiple nonprofits, doing all sorts, like 10, 12 different projects slash jobs in my free time. I was running, I was hustling, because I just had so much passion and energy. But now that I'm in my mid 30s, I've started over the years just taking things off my workload to where now I only have about three things, and Sandbox is now one of those three that I've started to commit to because I see this going in a really positive direction. It has the budget, it has the energy, it has the momentum ish. We can get it back, right? But it has the people, and and for once in my life, I got in early.
Nice.
I got in to where I have an experience under my belt, and I've watched the community. I've played almost all of the experiences and all the old ones, right? The seasons before they started proliferating into hundreds. But yeah, I'm like, I want to commit. I want to commit. And so when Crafter, when you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I get that. Can some of these others, like, can they devote the energy needed to build a healthy organization? Because right now we're living off of the early momentum, the announcement, and then the $20 million raise off of a $1 billion valuation. Like, there's a lot of push, but when that dissipates, the attention goes elsewhere. Who's left?
Well,
Who's left to carry this
where's
forward?
the attention right now? That's
It's
like,
interesting.
look at where we're at right now. There's barely any interaction going on. I mean,
I
it's
know.
there, but it's not
And I
what
didn't.
it should be.
I didn't.
Go
I
ahead,
didn't
Joseph.
read that PR, but you just said that they raised 20 million, and I knew that off of a $1 billion valuation. Is that how they
$1
wrote it
billion
in the press release?
valuation. What was that?
Yep.
Okay, but is that how they wrote it in the press release?
That is how they wrote it. Yes, I'll pull it up.
Okay, cool. It's fun because that's wrong, and it's much higher. Their valuation, it should have been much higher than that.
Captain and his co-host mentioned that something closer to 4 or 5 billion was what they
Yeah.
either expected or that they had seen before. I couldn't quite make that out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
well, if we defer back to just the liquidity of the land, right? 166,464 times
I don't.
0.1, and what is ETH right now? Like $3,300.
Yeah, about 33.
I would
Let's
go with
just
that.
let's just pretend
34 right
that's the
now.
number. So yeah, I mean that's another.
Yeah, it's in the announcement.
Whoa.
Sandbox
Oh,
announces
wait.
$20 million funding at 1 billion valuation cap to
No,
expand creator
that's
economy.
actually right. Holy shit, that is concerning.
Yeah, because
Um,
what I remember is that they were valuated at 4 billion
Oh.
during their first raise or one of their raises, and then this is the second, or not I don't know how many
Yeah.
raises they've had, but this
No,
is the
yeah.
one where they dropped the valuation way down.
Yeah.
That's what I remember, like, seeing in the headlines, and I don't know how true.
So
I don't. I'm not a numbers guy, so I see these things and I'm like,
yeah.
huh. And then
When
I
I
just
was
move on.
there, we had, oh my god, why is my dog? Anyway, I'm just gonna pretend like my dog's not barking in the background. Forgive
It's
me.
okay.
The a land peaked at 5 ETH for the
Right.
minimum offering, right? And so that 5 ETH times 166 whatever times 4,000 at the time, it meant it was 20 grand for a land for one, USD valuation. And right now the total value of all the lands is now just like 50 something million dollars.
Yeah, I was looking at earlier today. They each is hovering about 0.12 ETH right now.
Yeah, okay. So a little higher than that then. It'd be like 60 mil for all of the lands if you wanted to buy them all. Which is a stark contrast because that's the difference of billions of dollars of total valuation lost. Take it from another perspective, however, if the sandbox can build a good proposition for developers to come in, then you're spending $300-400 to buy the right to publish in this place, right? You're buying your slot on the Apple Store, you're buying your slot on the Google Play Store, and you don't have to take a 30% revenue cut.
It's a good price point.
It could
It
be a
is.
great price point if they
It is.
leverage it so that devs can make money easier.
Right.
Yeah, but the that hurts as a number. When I hear that number, my God, because Like like I said, I was there launching sand with the sandbox. I was helping people, including one guy who literally lost $1 million worth of sand. He just lost it in a
Nice.
wallet. He was like, he was super pissed off going through our support. And I was like, bro, here is your ETH transaction where you traded it for USDC like 3 weeks ago. Were you drunk? And then he was like, oh my God, I didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, this is your wallet. Here you go. Here's when you did it. You lost this $1 million worth of sand. No,
Yeah,
you did it wrong. And
that's
yeah,
funny.
man, man. Anyway, so
Good
this is
times.
kind of I'd be throwing up big changes in SIPs, and hopefully those changes can impact. So one of the other um, reaction points that I had was when I asked them on that first AMA what um, what impact does it have. They replied with, well, we might completely deny a proposal, right? We might just say, nah, can't do it, which I thought sort of defeats the purpose of the decentralized autonomous. Yeah, it's none
Yeah.
of those things if the sandbox can come through and ubiquitously go, nah,
Well,
just kidding,
yeah. There's
you
I
know.
mean, they have multiple ways to do that. It's
Right, and there's
ridiculous.
multiple layers during the process that
Yeah.
it sort of comes about. So it does help if you're proposing something for a tool that they definitely are not making or definitely could not make.
Right.
But also it helps if you can get something like a roadmap to get up like available. I know that those roadmaps already exist. So if you can get that to be votable, then that would be easy to pass and easy to implement. So anyway, yeah,
Right on. Preach.
And you should be, in my opinion, the way like they've done everything, you should be able to submit that and have it be an SIP. Like
I already
that's
submitted it, so I'm just waiting for them
yeah,
to put it to community, 14-day community comment.
yeah. And
okay.
that'll be the interesting bit, right? Because that's where the friction may come in. Special counsel are the people who put it forward to can the community even vote. So does the
Yeah,
special counsel look at that and
yeah.
say
I
that's
didn't
bad
hear
for
a no
business to
yet.
put out a roadmap? Right,
Yeah.
right. And so I'm interested to see that's what I want to see from this process is special counsel to effectively get out of the way and say fine, go vote for it on almost any SIP.
Yeah.
And then
I'll
actually
let you
have
know how it
people
goes.
say no. Yeah, that'll make it decentralized if it is going
I've
to be.
my first 3 to 5 sips, I'm hitting different sectors to see kind of what we can do. One was
Yeah.
in-game windows resizing. One was out-of-game programmatics. Then I'm going to have more of an out-of-game plugin tool,
Mm,
and then um, Magic Palette. So Pepe is hitting the out-of-game web-based. So I'm trying to feel out the contours of what the
yeah.
DAO can stomach. Don't
Yeah.
know.
And if I was projecting my understanding of the sandbox game, the uh, the window resizing is the least likely one to go forward, even though it seems like the easiest one to implement, because they may say there may literally be a person in the office who says, "I'm already doing that," and so your SIP will just get denied, and you won't know why it gets denied because they won't be clear because there is no roadmap.
Yeah,
It'll just get denied, and then you'd be like, "Damn, they're just not going to do that for me as a dev." But it could literally already be being done. And so that's where some of the
it's okay.
communicative friction may be versus what you propose. But I think that's why I think it's important for
I
proposals to
have
just go forward.
1, 2, 3, 4, 18 more sips I want to write, so we
There it
can
is.
let one go.
Fill them up as long as, as long as it's
I'm in my
productive.
element. I'm in my element.
Yeah,
I like this
yeah.
portion. Okay, so you're
Cool.
unsure of the personalities involved, and how else would you recap your reaction?
Um, yeah, financials. The financials were terrible.
Financials need
And
improvement.
three specifically. Sure. We could say needs improvement. The very last line item was the one that really stuck out for me just because it said other $1.2 million worth of sand. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like no details. We'll just have other. That's fine.
I have it on
The biggest
slide
chunk.
15. Other is
Yeah.
2.4 million.
2.4 million sand.
Yeah.
At the time, it was almost 50 cents for sand or whatever.
Almost,
So I was
Yeah.
roughing it at a million two in USD.
Oh,
you know,
gotcha.
equivalency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about that? All right.
It's a big
My
number.
reaction is the same as what I said. It hasn't really changed. I was very skeptical at first. I had the same reaction as Joseph did. Who are these people? I recognize a couple names, but the vast majority of them, I don't know. I haven't heard. And I've been trying to pay attention to who's been talking in the community. And then the SIPs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, those were a bit of a eyebrow raiser to me. We were spending money before we even have a budget being passed. There were 27 million voting power being lobbed at the yeses already. I'm like, what is the point of saying no now at this stage? And then as the AMAs developed, as Seb, Cyril, and Shannon and Loretta started communicating more about what was intended and what their intent was, as time started to unfold, then my skepticism turned into hopeful optimism. So at this point, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They made it clear that their intention is to wind up the Troy, set it down, and then let the community push it or stop it or run it off the tracks. I was just listening to Lisbon the other day that got published. Seb reiterated for the third time I've heard in an AMA or elsewhere that his intention is for the DAO to take over the decision making for the sandbox, and he used the word timeless, right? He wanted to be timeless, and my interpretation was that in giving the DAO complete authority over the sandbox, it would live on through any one person, one CEO, one bad management choice of a director or whatever the case is that some of the other companies
bad
face.
DAO choice.
Yeah, that DAO
Yeah.
choice, right? And
That's what I'm
Andy, to his
afraid of.
credit, said, bad idea, because one of us is going to run it off the train, and then a whale is going to go in, or public sentiment is going to be like, hey, we should give everyone $1 million. Like, some sort of $1 billion valuation killing maneuver, and then it's over. But I think it's a great idea, and I'm optimistic, especially now that I understand their intent is they built up the team selected by who they trusted to build the house, the structure, and then they will hand the keys over at a certain point in time in the future, and then hands off. And I think that's a great plan. We'll see how it executes.
I wonder what Seb's vision for how long is he envisioning that's going to take?
He didn't say, although they did mention one of the reasons why they chose December 2025 as the re-election for the advisory board was, one, to turn over the new budget year, and then to govern out the rest of the calendar year. They felt that they needed that rest of that calendar year to make an impact, to really build the foundation and the walls, so that if we decide to burn it all down afterwards, they've given us a key to a ready-made house. So at least until December, but we didn't. I didn't remember him specifying beyond that. December of next year, 2025.
Yeah.
Which I have a SIP plan for that one. So that one's gonna be my most unique one yet, because I was listening for what they thought about elections. I'm up to something. One of my 18 SIPs. Yeah. So let's get into this next one, right? And before we get into this next one, if any of you are watching and you are advisory council or special advisory board or special counsel, please let me just say up front, none of this is meant to insult. None of this is meant to disparage or demean. We are appreciative that you stepped up. I'll speak for myself. I'm appreciative that you stepped up to help lead this initial phase of the DAO. There's nothing that I'm going to say that should take away from that. And with that, let's get into the people
Yeah.
of the advisory board and the special council, right? So for you all, I put it on slide 20 and 21, and I'll show underneath on the, if you're watching the stream, you can see underneath, I'll start to show all of that. But what do we know of the advisory board and the special council? Joe, what do you
Yeah.
what do you think?
Sure. So I'll go with advisory board first because it's listed first. It's full of creators, people who have been in the Game Maker Fund, and even further they're out. Often, as developers in the Game Maker Fund, were invited by the Sandbox Game to go out to conferences and represent as the people who did make these games, and they would stand there in that booth all around the world
These are people
and
on the
help. Yes,
advisory board?
yeah, almost each and every one of them has been at some point invited by the Sandbox Game to represent as a dev, and by that I
Really? I
mean,
didn't know that.
uh,
Okay. So Anthony
I don't
Chow,
think
Ina, Moja.
maybe not the first two. Maybe they have, but
Okay.
when you're looking
Loretta
at this preview,
Chen,
but
Matthew
Mobler
Vivian.
Studios made Everest. Hermit Crab Studio has multiple games that have been in seasons. Loretta, I mean, Loretta, like I said, made the World of Women experiences on maybe on another team. And I don't know. I saw her in New York, so I know that she's represented them. Um,
Hmm.
and the other teams as well have made really high quality stuff. Artifact Labs has made some great games. McDull was one of the better games in the season 3. And then the I can't read it
Okay,
off of
so
the
these are
screen
very
because
much
they're
behind the
long.
scenes
But,
people, is what I'm hearing.
well, yes, yeah, they're behind the scenes in the sense that they're a little bit insider, but at the same time, they are devs for the most part. So I like the advisory folks myself. Um, However, it would be easy to see how someone from the community would have no idea who they are and ask what
Like
they do
me.
belong being there.
I
Right.
had no
And
idea.
so if I'm doing it differently, I would have had AMAs before it was time to vote for them.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
said, I'm okay with the vote results because I'm okay with these folks here. And the special counsel, I would I would probably change the person who was the CEO of an art installation in Paris that's based around NFTs. Like that's cool, but it doesn't really satisfy the demand of this platform, the core need for the platform. Um, but also, we didn't have any discussion before they were picked either, so there wasn't enough understanding of what the sandbox needs to do. I would say that the special counsel appeared to be decided, once again, as I mentioned, based on people that Seb knew. And that doesn't mean that they're bad for this purpose. For the most part, this is key turning, literally. But if these folks happen to get in the way, and I think the best opportunity for getting in the way is going to come from Seb, of SIPs getting forward to community voting, then I think personally, I think that's not great. And this has nothing to do with who's
Hmm.
picked. It really has more to do with the process of how do SIPs go forward. So overall, it's going to go out there. And maybe these people rotate out. And probably these people rotate out. Do they find themselves not having the time to do it, or is it not worth their time making whatever it was off their proposition? I think it was like $40,000 for the duration of this contract if I converted it from sand to dollars, right? Um, Obviously, that can be much more if they're super dedicated and they put forward real change that positively impacts the community. Then the fact that it's given as tokens um, is a good thing. The fact that it's not disseminated in dollars is a good thing. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
overall, yeah,
Yeah.
overall, team's fine. You know what I mean? Looking
That
at it
was
as a
not the
full
answer I
body.
thought you were going to give, Joseph.
Yeah.
I didn't know you knew or had familiarity with the advisory board. You're the first person I've heard to ever explain that.
Yeah. Well, it does help that I was there at conferences, and it does help that I've worked for the Sandbox previously. I don't have an active contract. It also does help that many of these teams brought their games to me to QA, including, Loretta. I believe we had done one on a live show where I had playtested the World of Women, and they're in the comments talking about, "Oh, you saw this, you found this. This is why that is. This is why that's broken." You know, and so I know that they understand how to make the tool better because they do work with the tool. So that I liked. I liked these people.
Okay. Wow. All right. That is
That's
definitely an interesting take. Crafter, what do you think?
Well, I mean, that's good to hear. I, to be honest, haven't taken any time because none of them have taken any time to show up to anything. So I haven't really taken any time to look into any of them.
Shannon
I,
showed up
I
to more than a few. So is
yeah,
Frederic.
uh, Shannon's the only one that I've really noticed. But maybe others have. But either way, I just don't. I don't appreciate that for one, being in the positions that they are, and
Ah,
I don't specifically, and then this was brought up earlier, I think by Joseph, that there's no one that represents the community there. Like if any of these
fair.
people had been involved in the community at all, I would have spoken to them at some point in my 4 years
Yeah,
of
because you
uh,
used to be part of the
doing
machine.
doing all of this. So I that's my one hesitation is that it feels like it's just a business move based off of who all is in these positions and not at all going to really care about what the community wants. And uh, I just think that that's not a good first taste for people
So that strikes
because
you as kind of a negative first step.
yes, and
Okay.
and probably just a misstep, to be honest. I'm not saying that it was intentional, but I do think that it also could be remedied and should be remedied. Just because, for one, now I'm just kind of spitballing, but you got me rolling. The
Roll away.
advisors, the advisors, I don't like. I guess I don't understand their role. Because if they're supposed to be advising the DAO and the DAO members, where are they?
We do see Loretta every once in a while. Um, I still am in the same place as you. I know they're supposed to advise on cultural. They each have their own cultural emphasis, and that is somehow input into somewhere. I'm not sure.
Is it, yeah. When they say cultural, are they like referring to just like areas of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
world? Like, is
Like
that like
fashion,
regions? So, well, see,
like industries.
that's where my head went is like industries, but and then I see other people point out that they're just from different areas of the world, but I don't know where any of these people are from, so I have no idea. Um, they
Yeah,
have different
I've looked up a few.
experiences and community base in different parts of the world. I
Yeah.
don't
I mean, they do have studios out of different parts of the world, but all of them have the same needs and problems, for the most part.
That's true. And
With the
I mean,
exception of Code Green. I think Code Green is the only one that I don't remember having seen a game produced by them, which is what it is. But I think, as I recall, Code Green is the company where a certain portion of all sand earnings get derived down. And this helped solve a problem for the sandbox in the past, as I was getting yelled at on live streams. Um, Code Green helps plant trees, right? For every dollar the sandbox makes, they take a portion of that and give it to them. So now, uh, does that put them in a good spot to advise what the future of the platform is? Maybe, in a certain way. It definitely brings a certain angle, but their angle may be more fiscal. And is that okay? Sure, you know. Um, but once again, I sort of come from a place where most of them being CEO, COO, chief commercial officer, founder, are they busy? You know? So it's nice
yeah.
to see a few faces show up and, you know, aside from that, yeah, it's whatever. It's
And
whatever,
yeah, and I guess to piggyback off that comment, that I'm not really shitting on them for not showing up. I'm just pointing this out that I feel like, and maybe we need their advice and they're good good people to be on the board, but also we need some people that are going to be able to show up and do the
Yeah.
things that need to be done. So
And
this just
really,
didn't.
what I wanted to see that I didn't see is that I wanted to see. I mean, I've seen it message in the chat. Panda Pops, Alex, candidly Kristen. Uh, don't mean to name drop myself, but my name came up. Okay, of people who are connected with the actual comments that come through on Discord and the comments that come through on
Yeah.
Twitch and the comments that come through on Twitter, and read them and understand what the vibe is. There's a lovely gentleman who works for the Sandbox out of the UK named Scott, and he gives a bullet pointed synopsis to the Sandbox team of these are all the complaints we saw in Discord this week, every single week. So if Scott is in this, then that makes more sense, because then it's like we know what the Sandbox needs to succeed, because the problems that the Sandbox needs to solve, and they need to solve them, in my opinion, before December of 2025, at the end of this term. They need to solve daily active users. They need to solve devs making money, because both of those things solve each other's problem,
Yep.
and both of those things make a land worth 5 ETH again. They make
Right.
sand worth
Yeah.
$8 again.
Right.
You know,
And at the end of the day, those are the numbers that the VCs and everything are looking for.
right?
So
Yeah,
so it makes everyone happy. It makes the devs, it makes the
yeah,
gamers, and it makes all of the money,
yeah,
behind everything happy.
yeah,
And that's what
and
we should be shooting for.
then on the other side, what is the good side to these advisors? I would say is let's say an SIP comes through that says you need to do another season and you need to give away 5 million sand in that season, right? Well, these advisors might make sense to say, well, that doesn't solve the core problem, because if I'm an
Experience.
advisor, yeah, the games need to be good. They need to be fun. They need to
Mhm.
be engaging. People won't care if they
Is
make
it-
money if the games are actually fun. You know what I mean? If the
Yep.
games are only there to grind, then the only type of gamer you're ever going to get are the people who are only interested in earning a buck while they play. But if a game is fun, you're going to play it for not 5 hours. You'll play it for tens of hours, thousands of hours. You know what I mean? You're just playing it because you're having a good time. People don't play Call of Duty because they earn $5 playing it. They spend
Right.
hundreds of dollars because it's fun and worth their time. So that's the shift that they need, where these advisors might be good for that, maybe.
Maybe.
I agree. I agree with that 100% though. That is what we need to have happen. Hopefully we figure it out.
Yeah, I did not know the majority of them, and I had the same reaction. What beyond just the I haven't seen them around, the main thing that I was thinking was what is their role and how are they adding value to the vision of the DAO? Because I read the DAO vision and I thought that sounds good. What are we doing? Who is our leadership and what are they doing to do that? And uh, other than these are I knew World of Women. I didn't know Shannon, so I looked her up afterwards, and I saw what she was speaking at in different venues, and I was like, okay, yep, that makes sense. That's what I'd expect. Did not know Grail Capital was the the parent of Ledger, so as soon as I made that connection, I'm like, all right, no, that makes sense. Yet Sue, I knew somewhat about Animoca, did not know the depths to which that presence is in our industry. That makes sense. Ariane, I'm not too familiar with Frederic or Ariane, but I take it for what it is. It has a very flashy website. He had a master's degree in microelectronics. So maybe that's. And then the advisory board, I did not know any of them. I've heard Loretta in a few AMAs, and the one that they did today or yesterday, the AMA at the Southeast Asian region, she was the host. So I'm about 50% of the way through that one for that. And okay, cool. But the main thing I was trying to figure out is what exactly are they advising on? what sort of cultural input and strategic advisement are they leveraging? So none of that was clear to me. And to me, when I look at the leadership of any organization, military, civilian, nonprofit, your local D&D board game group, the leadership is one of the key things that tells you about where's it going. What's its chance of survivability? How effective will it be? How credible will they be? How transparent will they be? And also, what is the ratio to what they speak towards what they act on in alignment with their vision? And I don't really have too many concerns right now in this initial phase. It's a very strong opening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know all of these people, but I trust that they represent some facet, some need, and that when Cyril and Seb say that they spent 8 months working on the DAO's, articles of incorporation, the bylaws, and all that, that they took careful consideration in inviting these 7 individuals and these 5 board members.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's also important to note that the advisors get paid nothing. Their investment in the sandbox is the reason why they are wanting to advise. So it would be literally like asking any of us, "You want to do this?" Okay. Well, you get nothing for it, but tell me what the beat is, right? So that's one credit to those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
The special counsel, of course, as I mentioned before, gets paid. Now it's probably about $35,000 in today's sand value for the duration of this proposal, which is till December of 2025. So not too much to garner their attention necessarily. Maybe more than they should be paid to just turn a key. But are they just turning keys? Or are they directly involved? That's
Question mark.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm optimistic. It's the longevity of it. This is not necessarily a sprint when it comes to a DAO. And the more I learn about DAOs, I did not know much about DAOs. So shout out to G and Animoca Hall when they did their Saturday things. That was the first time I got exposed to long form narrative of what a DAO was. And then I just delved into YouTube videos after that. So that was cool. Did not know how that worked at all. And then suddenly, oh, okay, I get it. DAOs, SIPs, voting, bylaws. Cool. Something I noted I wanted to specially point out was when I was looking through the voting power, I noticed that Sandbox had 27 million voting power that it applied to SIP4. Now I realize they did that on accident. Cyril was very apologetic that they couldn't resend it to resubmit. Okay, cool. But I think, do we have anyone that could rival that at all?
I doubt it.
Is it 27 million and then it's lopsided? I saw
Yes.
Cryptopolitan, that's 4 million.
No one can rival that. Let me see.
There were over 1,000 votes on average for each SIP. Cryptopolitan came in strong with 4 mil, and then it seemed like a healthy spread down below that.
How much was I can't see the numbers, but is this on the? I guess I could look at the actual slide if I have that on my end. But
yeah, slide 14. But I just zoomed in on it for you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
what's the percentage of the vote that the Sandbox casted? I'm just curious on what that.
It was 100% yes.
No, what is just the
what
Sandbox?
is their weight?
On this, I guess on this vote.
I
specifically
don't
is
know. It doesn't show me a percentage. It just said 27 million. So I'm not sure what that was.
If you just take what's on the screen there,
Yeah,
that
I mean, yeah,
way more.
It's going to be fairly close, but the yeah, that's a good 80% of the weighted vote, just off what you can see there, at least. Assuming that there's math going down to make the rest of that work. But the only even if so, I mentioned on the map the lands have their weighted value. If Whale Shark came in and voted for that, they would have about 3.5 million just on their land, but still not even close being, you know, as close to the sandbox. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay. So then, as long as Sandbox stays out of the voting cycle, then the rest of us have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it is like any this is an inherent problem with DAOs, sort of, that you have a few people with a lot of power. Um, it was always gonna be like this. This is something that I had to look into a lot back when people were asking about the white paper and is sand viable to buy? Because in the white paper it mentions that, you know, governance is an aspect of a reason why you would want to buy sand. And they were talking about the DAO all the way back then, August 2020 when we launched that. In
Hmm.
the yeah, and back then there were a few people, a few wallets that already had like 3 million sand in them. Even like pre IP or whatever, you know, ICO. Um, and yeah, people were concerned about that. Like, well, this is disproportionate. There's too much in just the one sand wallet. So I think that's the real tell. It is. It clearly frustrated some people. There were many people in the community who went, "What the hell? Sandbox has already voted. Why are we even doing this?"
I
You
was
know,
one of them.
right away. Yeah, I mean, rightfully
I was like,
so.
it was just a
Um,
mathematical question at that point. What was even the
yeah.
point?
Well, and you
It's a
know,
waste
if
of
we
time.
compare this to exactly, it is a waste of time. But also, if you compare this to conventional securities, I touched on this a little bit before the live show
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
chat. Conventional securities, if you go buy a stock, yes, you have some voting power in proposals, and this is very much running sort of similar to that, where
Mm.
the proposals are getting sort of curated, and then anybody who has share ownership of the DAO can then vote in that. But at the moment, if the sandbox came through and the community didn't care, then their weight would be enough to easily do the 51% or whatever. And in combination with their land ownership, the sandbox already has 1% to reach a quorum just by clicking yes.
Yeah. So
So the good
something.
side, the bad side. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did you see this where Seb created a DAO, a Seb DAO, and in the
Uh huh.
Seb DAO, it was a proposal to delegate or to have the DAO direct where his vote would go,
Sure.
which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
A fascinating concept that he has a DAO in the DAO,
Mhm.
There's lots of that
Yeah.
going on,
right?
just so
A
you
DAO
know.
within the DAO
Yeah.
that almost like
Yeah.
Mochaverse in some ways, although maybe not
Mhm.
quite the last few sips for ApeCoin and all that. But the DAO within the DAO would
Yeah.
direct Seb's voting power within the SANDDAO.
Sure.
What do you think of that?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if Crafter, you want to go first because I went first on the last one. I've
I
got feelings.
mean, my thought on that, I guess.
Dr. Metaverso says he thought it's great.
I honestly I don't see a good or a bad from it,
Okay.
to be honest. Just because maybe I'm just like numb to it, but like that's just dowing. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
there are going to be organizations of some sort, and that's just one example, that are going to come in, and if they realize that this is the key factor, I guess, if they realize that they can come in and do stuff like extract money for things, they are going to buy up a lot of sand and collectively do that and extract the money and walk away with it. I mean, it's just, I see it. It happens. And this is, I don't think that, I wouldn't expect the people that hold SEB token to be malicious in any way, because but I also don't know how people are getting SEB. I haven't really
I
been
don't
paying
either. I tried to figure
attention
that
to
one
that.
out.
I can tell you.
But yeah,
I know
so
exactly how they get it,
They all
and I
seem
can
to
tell
have
you.
about 1 million. How did they get it, Joseph?
Yeah, yeah. So, were you a landowner?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just had to fill out a form that he put out on his social media posts. Fill this out. I'll
When?
send you Seb. I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago.
A month?
I do
I'm gonna
remember
look
seeing
at it
like
right now.
a random
Yeah.
tweet about it at one
Yes,
point.
it was that and, are you an avatar holder?
Yeah.
Um, Claims. There was a claim button you coulda clicked off of his social media. So it's really just literally engaging
What?
with Seb directly
Oh gosh,
that allowed you to get Seb token.
I
Now,
missed all that.
that said, how does that impact, or where's the value, right? Good news is it's probably gonna be weighted in landowners and weighted in avatar owners, people who are vested in the ecosystem. Bad news, he also did some giveaways for, "Hey, did you ever take a selfie with me? Show me your selfie in this comment
I
section,
I
and
I
I'm gonna
remember seeing
airdrop
this
you
one.
Seb."
Yep.
Yeah, and I went, "Man, this is stupid as hell," but and I didn't even submit my own because I went to go look and whatever. I think I know I've taken photos with him before, but also I can't find where those photos are. And I was like, I'm gonna go back to your point about people extracting value out of an ecosystem. Actually, when I saw that he was gonna make a Seb token and saw the sort of the way he was doing it, I got a bit frustrated because I look at that, and this has nothing to do with the sandbox. It's apparently starting to, but I looked at it as sort of like a grift. You know what I mean?
What's a
Like
grift? What is that?
a grift is where you basically you take your social clout to say, "Give me money only because I'm cool." You know what I mean? Like people are gonna buy Seb token potentially on the maybe possible chance that Seb token number go up, and who's holding all of it? Seb,
So
right? And he has all of the controlling ownership of it. That's cool. What he will do inevitably is say, now, if you hold sub token, you have voting power over my voting power in the sandbox game, which will incentivize people to buy sub token. And that would in turn to him saying, we're going to fully decentralize sub token. So you guys have all the power in saying what I want to do with my sandbox shares. And they will buy it all from him. And so he gets to make money out of thin air for no reason because he could just listen to his community and vote accordingly. Does that make sense? And that's a very pessimistic way to look at it. That's a very rude way to look at him capitalizing on his social credit. But that's really what this is. And any of these tokens, as Krafter mentioned, this happens a lot in DAOs. People do it all the time. Um, because when you think about why a token exists, a token only exists for its utility. And the only utility for Seb is commanding Seb to vote a certain way in the sandbox game.
Got it.
Which, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that's Seb token, and
yeah.
I would
Seb.
never make a Joe token. I'll tell you that. But that's me.
All right, fair. I mean, I thought it was a great idea until you said that.
He's not. He's not currently selling the Seb token, and that's correct, Doctor Metaverse. He's not selling the Seb token, to your
True.
Yeah.
knowledge. You know what I mean? Does it get sold on DeFi later? It's a question mark. And the thing is, I get that he's not selling it. It's not sold anywhere. He made it very clear that it's not for sale.
Could
Is
the
anyone at
holders
any
vote
point
on it? I wonder if that is
the
I don't know.
yeah
I wonder how his DAO works. Could somebody vote
yeah
on
I don't know.
setting up a liquidity pool and now it's
That's the
tradable?
issue. As soon as there's a liquidity pool, which there almost certainly already has been one created. If I went and looked on wherever he built it, if it's built on Poly, then I'd go look on Polygon Scan for a liquidity pool, and it probably already exists. And then it gets into that shifty territory. For me personally, it is what it is. I like it as a pure concept if it's pure, uncommercialized, but that's not how decentralized finance works, you know, then it's fine, whatever. If he's just giving away tokens to say it's voting power, then it's, yeah, but it's just one of those things where I feel like I see writing on the wall, though historically he has not shown any evidence as to why that could be there. I just don't like the concept in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that I like to hope that it's just like a fun thing for him that he's just trying to do, but I do also see like there is the possibility for what you're explaining as well. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Hopefully, and like you said, there isn't really anything out there that would like lead me to believe that he would be doing something like that. But it like also like you said, that is a possibility. like
Yeah.
and I have been here long enough to know that not everyone is who they seem to be on the front page where you see them. So I'm not saying that Seb isn't who he is, but you never know. And
Yeah.
I
And
think
he's been great. Yeah, for
no,
clarity, he's a
Seb's awesome.
fantastic person so
I
far. He's
agree.
been
I
great.
agree.
He's never done anything that would lead me to believe that he would be shifty. You know what I mean?
Same.
That's good.
It's just one of those things that gives me the ick personally. It's not about can it it's a can it happen, not a will it happen. I don't believe it would happen. But
Gotcha.
But should it have happened? I
yeah,
should it have happened was my question when I
yeah.
first saw it. I was like,
Like I probably would
should he
have
be
just done an
doing that?
AMA and been like, "How should I vote?" Like, get in Discord and tell me how to vote, you know, because
Yeah.
you run the company. That would have given me better like faith. But whatever it is, what it is.
So pivot to a different type of question. We touched on it a little bit. What lessons should we learn from other DAOs, and in parentheses, and incorporate into us or avoid?
I think
Or can real quick,
if you
I need
have
to use the
something, yeah.
restroom, but I'm gonna let Krafter run it.
Oh yeah.
I've got wireless headset though, so I can still hear it.
Ooh, perfect. Hopefully your mic's off. On the headphones. But yeah, I would say there's definitely lessons to be learned, and the thing that also I would say is that I'm no expert in DAOs by any means. I've just participated in a handful of them and just more so spectated, but also participated. I did a little bit of both with the ApeCoin DAO specifically. I did submit an AIP and go through that process just to kind of get familiar with what the heck a DAO even is and how it works. So that was a fun experiment that
Yeah, I had to do the same.
actually was would have passed if one whale didn't decide that he's too cool and likes to shit on people. But Machi Big Brother. But other than that experience, like it's from just like my perspective on DAOs, it just there's so much behind the scenes that goes on that most people that are interacting with DAOs don't realize is happening. And I think that that's probably something that just is always going to happen, right? Like that's always happening in the world. So I think you just have to accept that and then figure out ways to combat some of the negative things that could go on within DAOs. And that's like, so that's my perspective. And then from there, it's like, do I know or have really any ideas on ways to do that and implement things? No. But I do see just from watching other DAOs, I do see interesting approaches and interesting proposals that come through that I'm like, huh, like that's interesting. Like I wonder if that could work. And most of the time they get voted down because they do have a potential to work, and the whales don't like when there's potential for their power to get taken away, so they vote no. So
Shots
like
fired.
so like that's the thing that I've witnessed over and over and over again, where it's like, oh, something good is coming through that I think like it kind of makes sense that it could make this DAO work better, and then it just doesn't.
Wait a minute. I got small detour. Who is a whale in the sandbox? What is the definition of a whale in our community?
That is a very good question.
Mm.
I honestly haven't really looked into analytics on sandbox stuff in a long time.
How do you even
but
determine that? I don't know. I have no idea how that
Okay,
works.
so
you can
like
do it all on
throw the
chain pretty
sandbox
much,
part
but
out. Basically, if you just take the sandbox and you throw that part out and you just think about what is a whale, it's
I could think of that
generally
part, right? Someone who has a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
assets.
big, blue, fins.
Yeah, like
No, but
someone with a lot of the
so
coin or a lot of the assets or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to specifically name drop people is hard to do these days because a real whale owns a lot of sand token and not a lot of land. But early on, a whale would have enough land to be dominant, right? When land was worth 5 ETH. Um, so it depends on the direction of the cycle and the direction of the company to define what a whale is. But from a small perspective, uh, the community, I think, is generally going to say, do you have $10,000, $20,000 worth of sand or land? You're a whale because you are outside of the reasonable uh, onboarding group. You
Mhm.
are, you were early,
And you're
right?
outside,
And
you're outside the norm, right?
yeah, because if you look at
Shit.
the, especially, yeah, especially if you look at the special council, the advisory board, right? And the regions that those people's teams come from. Look at their daily or annualized earnings. Hell, the Sandbox's alternative branch in Argentina, people in Argentina can only make annually about 4,700 bucks a year, US dollars. So if you're holding a year's salary for them, you're a whale. That's
Right.
crazy. They can't save that. You know what I mean? So
That's a
this
fascinating point.
for those emerging countries, you look at like people who are playing in Alpha Season 1, 2, and 3, a lot of those folks were from like the Philippines or they're from India or whatever. And they're looking at, I don't have to go to work because I can just play this game and it earns me more than going to wherever, you know?
Huh.
People who were playing Axie Infinity were doing the same thing. They were quitting their job because they're making 300 US dollars a day in a place where you can't make, 10 grand a year. Why wouldn't you? Screw it. I don't have to go to work anymore.
Right.
And, but that creates economies around these things. Like the reason why Southeast Asia has been really good at embracing crypto is because this is literally life changing money for a lot of these countries. So it's really easy to get a Center for Economic Development built around the Sandbox game in Southeast Asia because there's money to be made here. And it's easier for the Sandbox game to um, to pitch that as well. So let me wrap it all the way back around.
Dr.
What lessons?
Metaverso said in the chat that
Yeah,
one of the accounts that he was told by someone who owned 700 sand was that he or she considered someone who owned more than 1 million sand to be a whale.
sure. Well, I mean, that it falls in that same category. Like a true whale in terms of like governance, voting power, is someone who can drop a few million points and like somebody who makes the needle move. Us at the
Okay.
council, when we vote, we move the needle for depending on what stage of the vote it was. I think we only moved it like 0.1% just on one vote. Um, that was after the Sandbox had voted with their 27 mil or whatever. And but we looked at that, like, what do we really change when we make the vote? And
Gotcha.
but there would definitely be people who would look at us and say we're whales because we've got not lands but estates. We've got a good portion of sand, or we're able to just on any given Sunday go buy your stuff in the marketplace because it looks good. You know,
Huh.
it's a dynamic that you know most of the users. Well, hell, let me relate it another way. Most people who live in the United States don't have $400 in their savings account. If they had a $400 emergency today, they couldn't afford it. So, if you have more than $400 in your savings account, you are a whale in the United States of America.
We're all whale. Well, I shouldn't say we're all. I don't know. I don't know everyone's financial situations, but
Yeah,
um,
but it's just one of those things where everything comes with
That's a very
perspective.
sobering thing.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
That I mean, I don't want to I am nervous and afraid of being sucked into that world. 'Cause I've been in crypto for a little while.
Mhm.
I got in sand when it was earlier.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a whale, but maybe that's something a whale would say.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I would agree. I've ran in that same situation. I've lost more money than I can remember. Like literally, you've heard it. If you've been watching shows that I've been on, you've heard it. But at the same time, I wouldn't consider myself a whale because realistically, I don't make by a traditional financial sense, I don't make enough money to be middle class in the US. Middle class. I don't even know what they really define that as now, but
Yeah, that's
like
an
between
elusive
my
term
wife
now.
and my regular salary, we don't make enough to get up into those middle tax brackets even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for holdings of crypto, they're like I remember one day I was at the time I was doing the Sandbox live streams, but I was also working at a local school and I was like their after school program coordinator, right? And I was like, "Hey, I need to go take a lunch real quick. I got to be right back. There's something happening that I'm seeing on my computer. I need to go fix it." I go home, click, click, click. I come back to work and she's like, "So what'd you have to do?" And I was like, "Nothing. I just made like $25,000." And she goes, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. Look at this. This is what I'm doing." And like she was like, "You got to tell me all about crypto right now," you know. And it's one of those things where you get lost easily,
Yeah.
but also you don't forget. At least from my perspective, I don't forget like that when I lived a block away from where I live right now. Like I come home and have butter sandwiches. You know what I mean? Like we did not have money and we don't come from money. And so I'm still eating ramen every day and I'm doing the normal stuff. But yeah, anyway, we're so far off. We're so far
Yeah.
off the
Well,
thing. A
then
whale.
that's important
You are a whale.
because Krafter, had an opinion about how the whales just come in and dump their voting power all over the place, and I'm thinking, well, shit, am I one of those? Am I considered that where I would become a curse word just by virtue of how I've decided to invest and when? I mean, that
Yeah.
makes me sad because I don't feel like I want like
I,
I don't feel like I have some secret motive to Illuminati the way the power and all that
Yeah.
and I don't know,
I think
it's
that
just a weird place to be in.
to I guess give you some reassurance. I think that the negative perspective on whales in the DAO culture, at least, um, that there's whales out there, like there's whales like we just described, like you could maybe be considered a whale. I don't know what you have, but like and then there's like mega whales that that have
Yeah.
in this scenario the sandbox is like a mega whale. In the ApeCoin DAO there's like 3 wallets that can swing a vote yes or no if they all vote the same or sometimes even opposite if one is not aligned with it but the other two vote one way. That's what's happening in the vote no matter what. I don't know if that's the way it is now. I haven't really kept tabs on the ApeCoin DAO in a while, but that's how it was.
Yeah.
So like that's where that's the negative whale aspect to DAOs that when that happens where it's like
Yeah.
exceedingly amount, or I don't even, that's not the right word, but a
No, yeah.
huge amount of voting power where they if they coordinate they just decide everything basically.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
I think that's actually interesting because I own mutant apes. I didn't own any board apes, but I owned a few mutant apes and I owned some of the other side. And when ApeCoin dropped, I got a bunch of it, right? Not a ton of it, but talk about Machi Big Brother, you talk about Franklin.
Yep.
Those people have a disproportionate amount of it, but that was disseminated based on how many apes did you own, and you got a certain weight.
Right.
And the way that the this is a little bit of a different monster, right? Because sand has been disseminated in a fairly decentralized way, but
Yeah.
also it was bought in a highly centralized way, if that makes sense. Or it
No,
was
that doesn't
given
make sense. What do you
to
mean?
okay, so ApeCoin, when it was given out, uh, it just wasn't for sale. It was we're gonna make a DAO and you have voting power based on your current investment in um, the Board Ape Yacht Club, the Mutant Ape Yacht Club, and the other side. And they had proportions. And then after that was put up, people were like, great, I'm going to get this much ape airdropped to me, and it's worthless, except for the DAO. And then they used the DAO to give value to ape.
Got it.
Sandbox comes at it from the other direction of Sand has value in the marketplace already to purchase assets, it has value to purchase lands. And now that you have sand, because you purchased sand to be able to buy these other things, or you earned it during a play to earn mechanic, now you have your ability to use it in the DAO. So the good side is you probably don't have whales that have a ton of voting power, and you've
True.
seen that in these votes relative
Yeah.
to the sandbox. The bad side is that you don't have people who are necessarily vested in the future if you get into that whale situation, right? So what we can learn that we avoid from what ApeCoin did is try not to have one person like Machi or Franklin be able to come in and say ubiquitously, no, we cannot do that. Because they're not necessarily interested in the future. They're only interested in their wallet.
Exactly.
Got it.
Those two
I
things
see.
could go hand in hand, but not everyone has that foresight. Some people who have a bunch of ape were literally just high and bought a shit ton of apes, and now they have all this power in their community. I don't think we have that in the sandbox, but the potential for that is sort of there as time goes along
Got
if
it.
we're not careful.
Okay. Yeah, that was just an interesting thing that popped in my head, um, that I wanted to get a little more clarity on. But Joseph, go back to you were just about to talk about what lessons we should learn from other DAOs, and you were up next.
Yeah, sure. So I think the thing that we need to learn as a community when we're voting is that you have to focus on the fundamentals of what a business needs, what this place needs, and
Mm.
then relate that to what you find to be acceptable as a voter. Um, so I'll give you the current rundown of the sandbox because I happen to know it. There's about 200 people who work there. At peak, it was 350 or thereabouts. Um, when I was working there, that 350 person staff had enough, they had enough money in their coffers to pay for those people to work for about 3 years. This is a year and a half ago. Um, the only way that they can pay for those people is actually listed in that white paper that you mentioned. And I found out that the last time I mentioned this on any type of podcast, I actually did the math a little wrong by rereading the white paper and wrong in a bad way. Um, so if you go to the sand section of the white paper, I don't know if this is still true, but I believe that it is true. Sand has something they call a fee capture model, which is 5% of all transaction volume carried out in Sand tokens shall be allocated with 50% or 2.5% of the total allocated to the staking pool as rewards for token holders that stake Sand tokens. If you can stake, you can't do this in the United States. Personal point of frustration. And 50% to the foundation. The foundation is TSB Limited. It's the company of the sandbox, right? So, what does that mean? If you're hiring 200 people to work and they make $40,000 each a year, maybe I'm shooting high here, but I think this is true because I've got people all over the world. Some of them make $4,000 a year, some of them making a lot more. If they average 40K a year, that means they need to make $8 million, right?
I
$8
have heard you
million.
say this before.
Yes. Now, the first time that I said it, I accounted that on that 5% capture because I assumed the 5% capture. But if they still do the staking rewards program, then it's actually only 2.5% capture, which means their volume of trade that they need on the marketplace to continue to do exactly what they've been doing so far is about $320 million. Last time I said it was 160 million because I didn't reread the white paper. Didn't, like I said, I didn't have a full understanding of their financial situation. Maybe they got cash on hand, maybe they don't. But let's assume they get to the end of their cash on hand. Let's assume they get to the end of the free sand train. That means that I think the most important thing that this community needs to do is make sure that the sandbox can make $8 million. So focus on things that increase the volume of trade in the marketplace. And the way that they do that is to fix problems that you're having right now, Lanzer. Fix the catalyst issue that you're having as a dev. Fix your ability to make a revenue as a dev off of the games that you produce. And ways that we could do that is to allow for you to have CD keys or access passes, right? That you can mint in the not tens of thousands, but in the millions, because millions of copies of Call of Duty are sold. Let's pretend for a second that the Sandbox game is Epic Games. They're selling millions of units, not 10,000 units. Let's stop pretending like it's a 10K PFP, right? We need to do this correctly for game devs, I think. Then eliminate Catalyst, change the minting system to Matic and Sand flat rate. Matic is a flexible rate because it's minting on Polygon. Sand is a flat rate. That's revenue for the sandbox. They get a 5% capture on your sale and resale on the marketplace. But you want to mint any number of whatever you want, that's great. Now we change the catalyst system to just 4 sliders. Speed, whatever, 100 total points. Allocate it however you want on 4 sliders of the same 4 stats. We've eliminated catalysts. You don't need them. You've got the gems mechanics still there, the stat sheet, and it's not random. I don't know if you've minted before. I know you have. It pisses you off when you go to mint a legendary and it's not 100 points.
I
Why would I do
know.
this?
Catalyst.
Why would I do this? Now
I
I gotta
put
go get
4
another
in that
legendary catalyst?
motherfucker and I only get like
Yeah,
76.
because
I'm
you
like, oh my
know,
god.
you know that people want speed. You know that people want power. So you could just go whoop, power. That's what I'm selling. I'm selling a power set. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
would be easier. Consumers will want to buy your stuff if
Right.
you know what the beat is on the street. And as developers, as a sandbox, how do they adjust for this? If people magically realize that luck is too goddamn strong, then the devs on the back end can go, we've adjusted the tunement for luck. And it's now balanced.
And
Have
they
you
put it
ever
on the
had
roadmap.
an
Yeah.
update?
Yeah, right. You
It's
put it
just
on the roadmap.
buffing.
It's very
It's just
easy.
buffing things, and
Yeah. And
Jeez.
okay, so now you've got the other side, right? Because I want to avoid people being pissed off. So I put this in my SIP. Existing mints are worth 120% of their natural stat line. Has it already been minted, right? So now your thing that only has 80 points is worth math 96 points of power. It only had 80 points of power before because we didn't want people who wasted their money on catalysts. I'm putting that in air quotes, but I mean that. To have wasted their time and money now minting early. We want to reward the early minters,
That's
and you
a
fix all future mint,
good
right?
compromise. I'd back that.
Yeah. So now you would what would that do? That would increase the volume of trade of assets on the marketplace because instead of getting a bunch of bullshit that's only got 77 points when you wanted 100, you've got everything has 100 points of stat on one line, or it's got 50 points on 2 lines, or it's got 33 points on 3 lines. You know what I mean? Well-rounded gear or min-max gear. What does a player want? It depends on how they play. And then you've got the ability for devs to be financially incentivized to come and make a game. They're betting on themselves because they minted their access passes to a certain number. They know if they sell all the access passes, they get a certain amount of money. And devs would be incentivized to not just publish on the Sandbox game, but market that you should come buy your shit over here on the Sandbox game.
Yes.
So devs start marketing to get people to buy their stuff. And real development teams see this. Now let's compare it with the other platforms. I want to publish on Google Play. Well, Google Play's taken a 30% overhead. Apple, 30% overhead. Epic Games takes a 20% overhead, I think. And Steam is taking a 30% overhead.
Roblox.
The Sandbox is
I've heard
taking
it's the same.
5%. The Sandbox is taking 5%. And if you sell out all your access passes, when they resell to someone else, your developer can get another 5% forever, constantly funding updates to their game.
Yeah. It's a great thing in
Yeah.
theory.
Not
Yeah.
that hard. Why is this not the standard practice? I think this is what the DAO can do. This is what lessons should be learned from other DAOs because we watch people dump money away. We've watched people put piss poor planning into I mean, you probably know that expression, military guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just, hmm, we can do it correctly. The question is, will it be done correctly? And I think that one of the more important lessons that we have to have, um, if I'm a special council member, is to not get so caught up in your own great ideas as to ignore the community, right? Because that's what's going to be the
Do more
biggest
of these.
issue with the
Yeah.
sandbox. Yeah. Anyway,
Cool. And that concludes his TED Talk
yeah.
/ his
Drop the gauntlet.
nomination for the special counsel. So you would run if that were to
Would I
pop up?
run? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
But I would only. I think I would find that to be quite interesting.
Go
Because
on.
well, I've had I have had a history
A
internally.
history.
Yeah. So I worked there, yeah. I've worked for the sandbox.
Oh,
Currently I do live stream, right? And um I'm going to continue to do the good and professional thing, right? Especially when I'm on the official sandbox live stream. I'm going to continue to represent the company well. I don't work there. I don't have a current contract with them. However, I am still an ambassador. I was previously the lead ambassador in charge of all those people.
no
Um, but
big deal. No.
2021, um, I got tired of getting yelled at on live streams and just said, "Hey, can you please actually communicate?" As you mentioned, yeah, because I'm the face. I'm literally the face of the sandbox at that time, the most frequently on their official Twitch and whatever. Um, I had previous experiences during land sales where there's literally 1,200 people on a live stream as the number yelling at me because the website doesn't work and they can't buy land. And so much so
I
that
remember
Seb was
those
trying
days. Yeah.
desperately to get to me. Seb
Yeah.
was trying to get into the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, that history leads to me going, fix this shit in closed forums. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to go out publicly and be like, this isn't working. I'm going to present solutions to the community and prove that we were doing the work. Right. And at the same time, confidentially speaking, I'm there getting yelled at by all these people while I'm on Slack going, how the fuck did you do this wrong? It worked last week. Like, did you not
Gotcha.
test? You know?
Yeah.
So
Things that happen behind closed doors.
here's
Yeah.
where the if I'm on the special counsel, this is the good and the bad thing. Because if I'm on the special counsel representing the DAO, I would be saying to them who are currently working there, including Seb, here's the community's problem. Here's the timeline that we have to fix it. Fix this shit. And that's good as a community member, but that's bad. That's friction on the other side. I ran
Yeah.
into this same problem later, the last time before the GMAE show was canceled off the official channel, because I was doing it, 5 days a week and whatever. And there was a new CEO in the US who is currently not the US CEO, but it didn't matter. He'd been there maybe 3 months, and he said, "We have a meeting, and it's the fourth Thursday in November. It's a company-wide meeting. Y'all live in the United States. You know what I'm saying here. That's Thanksgiving." And I was like, I've invited to my brand new home 27 members of my extended family because I just moved in August. I've spent $4,000 on food and furniture to facilitate these people to show up. I'm not going to be there for that meeting. And their reply was interesting in a very public Slack channel with lots of people in it. And then
It's interesting that
a couple of weeks later,
you should do a meeting at that time,
Yeah.
boss.
Right. I thought, as somebody who works in the US, they understand. And I was like, it's Thanksgiving. I can't be there. Right. Ultimately, the meeting gets moved because the people in France are more rational. Right. Than the US work expectation, which is show up when I tell you to show up. You know what I mean? And I've never really been that culture. Like I've hired 1,000 people over various jobs that I have been management. I've never been that person. I will give exemptions to you for your personal or religious needs or whatever, as long as business can continue to operate. And there was nothing we were going to do in that meeting that was so critical that business was not going to continue to operate.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the meeting gets moved, but a couple of weeks later, they go, "Hey, we're terminating your stuff." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Budget cuts." And I
Mm.
said, "Okay, but what about budget cuts make me eligible for the termination specifically? Like, what did I do differently than the other folks who are in these positions?" And the reply was budget cuts. And I was like, "Oh, okay. That's going to be this conversation. Great. Got it. Have a nice day." Right. So anyway, I they there's some friction. I would love to be a representative for these people because all of that being
Yeah, I
said,
would too.
I came back. We're doing the GMAE show for the community. Still, I'm doing it on a personal channel. I'm doing it on the official channel at least once per game jam. Still doing it in a very highly professional way. We're taking care of people because it's about people. Um, that's my thing. I would love the special counsel to continue to be about the people and about the future of the platform. So, yeah, would I do it? Yeah, sure. Anyway,
Crafter, would you?
Special counsel?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
Um, I think
All that
I don't.
power.
I just don't. I don't think that I don't know. Maybe I just don't think. I think there's um, more people that I would like. I mean, I would love to see Joseph there, to like over me. I would love to advise and help be like a voice for the community and stuff, absolutely. But I just don't. I personally, one, I don't feel motivated to be a special council member, so like that's probably not a good start. And but advising and helping guide the DAO, absolutely. It's just I don't even know, but as I'm like saying this, like I don't even know what the special counsel is in charge of and what they do. So maybe I would be qualified for it. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know. Like I don't think any of us really know what the special counsel's duties are specifically right now. So
They're
yeah,
mostly in charge of thumbs up, thumbs downing, proposals on redundancy, legality. Right before they went to community vote, they get a special council vote.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I would I
yeah,
would I intend to throw my name in the hat. I I feel like this is what I've been building my life toward. Gaming, business, like all of my experiences have led me to something like this, and I feel ready. I feel motivated.
like yeah,
I want to see this DAO. I want to see this community succeed. And
yeah,
I've seen it up and I've seen it down, and
yeah.
I want to be part of the solution.
I feel like that sentiment is uh, the vast majority of at least the active SandFam community, and that's what keeps me coming back to the sandbox stuff. Like if that weren't the case, I don't know. I doubt I would be here. But like with the community and everyone's hopes and vision for where things can go, it continues to feel like there is that possibility, and
Yeah.
it is happening. It's just slow, um, and without that, I think. I mean, I guess without that, would there even be a sandbox? Probably not. Like what? I don't know.
Yeah. I
Like
see all the
what happens if
ingredients.
that goes away?
Just how do we put it together so we can beat the pants off Roblox?
Right.
All right. How should we approach DAO management and leadership? Crafter, what are your thoughts on how should we? And you can use this as a community, as an individual. What do you think that approach should look like?
I mean, I really just think that all of the things that are happening inside the DAO need to be up for votes. So I think that as soon as things are in order, things should be voted on. I don't think I don't and I guess I don't have like an idea of what I expect the timeline to be. But if the timeline is less than this year and a half or whatever that everyone's in their positions, if things are up and running and it seems like the community would be involved in a vote to get people into places that that they deem these people should be in charge of, then
Mm-hmm.
I think we should have a vote on that. And like that's how a DAO works,
And
right?
and
Is
that's what you think the next step should be? I'll combine 7 and 8 together. So you think your next step should be to vote in more people?
possibly. Uh, I think more clarity would be great around, and maybe there is more clarity out there, and I just haven't done good enough research on it. But I have listened to a lot of conversation around this. But like more clarity on the positions that are already in place would be a good first step, and then from there, next steps I think would be um, coming up with a team that is going to be full-time focused on this DAO and making this DAO happen and
Yeah.
making it happen right. Because I feel like that's the only way that it's really going to happen and get done right is if we have people that are 100% focused on it and making it into what it needs to be. Otherwise, who knows what it's going to turn into. At least
Yeah.
if we have a roadmap in place and a vision on where we're trying to drive things, and we use the voting process to get there, um, I think we'll be good. But we need people in places to support that effort. Otherwise, it's going to be discombobulated and confusing,
Nice.
and it's just going to be all over the
I haven't heard
place.
that term in a while, man. That's a good one.
Discombobulated.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
I don't know where that came from. It's in here deep, but it came up. So there you go.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Joseph, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take them as two different chunks. DAO management.
Okay.
DAO management first is, let's assume this is about the DAO itself. The proposal they have from SIP 1 through 3 doesn't cover the DAO existing past December of 2025. If you are to have people running this program, then a DAO needs to have the ability to make money. Right now, it's been given money by the Sandbox, the 15.5 million sand. It needs to have a dedicated revenue stream somehow. How does that possibly happen? It could happen by the Sandbox committing a percentage of its fee capture model to the DAO to pay it, financing from, you know, one hand into the other essentially. Or the DAO itself needs to have a proposal that says that, when people vote, they disseminate, I don't know, zero point zero 0.01 sand goes to the DAO per vote or something.
A
Just a
DAO
number.
top up fund.
Yeah, whatever it is, there need something. So someone
A
needs to
DAO
create a
tip.
system that continues to finance it because now, in terms of leadership, people probably won't want to pay for DAO management if the managers don't appear to be doing anything, right?
True.
So when you
Very
look
true.
at the leaders have to prove it. Not just tell me what you can do, but tell me what you will do and what you have done. I'm not just talking about a roadmap, which is important. A roadmap would be
That
huge.
SIP template,
But
metrics for success.
yes, if you don't have metrics that I can track and metrics that you can prove, then where are we going? You don't
Yeah,
have
what are we doing?
KPIs you're
What are we doing
hitting.
here, guys?
Yeah. So the community's not going to pay 40 grand to Yatsu next year. If this year Yat doesn't prove Yat did $40,000 worth of work. And the interesting thing about, if as somebody who lives in the US, 40K, okay, that's not bad. I guess it's more, as an individual earner, I think that's like $16,000 less than the median in the US, right? But obviously, somebody in Argentina who might have voting power would go, damn, you make way too much money. like, why should I vote yes to this, right? So it'll be interesting to see if we do get financing for the DAO, what does the community find to be acceptable financing for these people to run it? So that's something that we have to consider. We have to approach. We have to work through.
One
Gotcha.
thing that I've noticed in previous DAOs is that when these re-election periods come up, that's when the entire like community of whatever that DAO is for shows up, and that's always the conversation: is how much are they making, what are they doing, why are we paying them that much? Like it's that is the focus of these election periods, and um, I don't know how you get around it, I guess, but like other than having people that are actually like setting a standard and showing like what what a special council member does to help the DAO, what an advisor does to help the DAO. Like if there's good role models that are ahead of this vote, then I think you can like look at the candidates and be like, oh yeah, I could see this person doing similar stuff
Mm.
to that person. But I think maybe where all that friction comes from a lot of times is that either it hasn't been transparent and people don't know what these people have been doing, or they just haven't been doing anything, and
Yeah.
that's when the people that start showing up start being like angry about the budget basically of what's going to
Yeah.
these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, when nominations come around, I'm doing a podcast and I'm gonna like my slides. I'm gonna start listing off. Here's what I'm going for. Here's my intent. Here's my platform. If you vote for me, this is what I expect to be doing. And then I'm
Yeah.
gonna, I don't know. I like visuals. I think they help. They help me at least. Like this is my plan. This is what I'm gonna put down on paper so that I can hit milestones. And here's how I know I'm succeeding. Here's how I know I'm failing. That's how I do it
Sure.
for me. Good times. All right, Joseph, what do you think are the next steps? What should I write down as your
Yeah, definitely the next steps are make sure that it exists after 2025 because it doesn't right now. And KPIs, numbers, accountability. Show me, don't tell me, show me what
key
you've done,
performance
what you're
indicators?
doing. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's it.
Yep. I'm about KPIs. I'm a big fan of established metrics. So it really, for me, it would be a roadmap. I think I can derive KPIs out of a roadmap or some sort of intent statement. When I look at milestones for a program, that tells me what the intent is and what they're moving toward. So it would be establish milestones for DAO, and that's from the leadership. So the leadership was elected. Let's say, yeah, that's fair phrase. Elected via SIP, and so what? So what now? What is their plan of action? And then the second thing is communication. I mean, as far if I were in their role right now, I would be doing something similar to what we're doing, but with the board. Like,
Sure.
hey, maybe every board meeting needs to be a live stream, and you can manage that however you'd like to. Shut off, make chat really specific or whatever. But I would have the slides as part of our agenda. Like that's what we would do, and some other things I've been a part of is the agenda would be slides. The discussion would be like it is now, where we go through the points, we go through what we want. I mean, some things will be
Yeah.
closed door. Got it. But not all of it. Not even most of it, in my opinion, and in my experience in running programs. So there's a lot of benefit from, I can see icebergs and we can advise them of icebergs while we're watching. Like if something, what was that video of Elon Musk when he was at the shuttle launch place and he was given an interview, something about thrusters or whatever, and he goes, well, blah blah blah, and then we saw the problem with the thrusters, and then the dude who was giving it was videotaping was like, well, that's only for like the left engine, right? And then Elon was like, now that you mention it, that's something we got to fix. And like live saved a shuttle from exploding because the dude gave like feedback. That I like that. That's cool to me. There's a
Yeah.
lot of power. Like I've been
Guys,
watching Dr.
it's a
Metaverso and all that.
it's smart to, you know, have minutes. I think like if you look at like a city council meeting,
Yeah.
that's basically that. There's no reason that can't be public. Those are public. This can be public, you know?
I
You
mean,
can and
it's very like it's decentralized, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
we're going
right,
for. But then some of the
right.
stuff is behind closed doors that no one that is part of the decentralized force
Yeah.
can't
Yeah, I mean,
can't
it
And
would
some
make
people
appreciate.
may be
sense
really
to
shy, and I get that. So it's kind of like a
well,
weight
then you're
balance
in the
thing.
wrong role, you know what I mean? You're in the
Well,
wrong
you can
role.
be a really good
Nobody goes up for
administrator.
city council. Nobody goes up for city council that's, like, super shy. You know what I mean? There are people, and they go, "Okay, well, I gotta get used to sitting here." And ultimately, it's still gonna be like the same 7 people in the room or whatever, the same people watching the same live streams, the same voices that are expressing the same concerns, but you can leave the chat up and completely ignore chat. Like they just if they did it, I really like this idea that you mentioned to make it public, to put it up on a
That
live forum like this because it's
Yeah.
easy for them to make it minutes, show it on the screen, cover it exactly like you have on this podcast, and just say these are the sips. Why
Yeah.
yes, why no. And the good thing that would happen from that is let's say, as I mentioned, I think if anybody's going to deny a thing on a SIP, it's going to be because they're already working on it inside internally in the sandbox based on what they've said before. And it's probably going to be, um, Seb doing that. So if Seb is the only person universally saying we can't do that, then that might do a good thing community wise and reveal that this is the obstruction that we have as a DAO.
Yeah.
Because I want to look at this isolated as a DAO, right? Not look at this as the sandbox as this. Um, but the platform right now is only 15.5 million sand, and they're going to get another whatever 100 million plus over the next year or so, just free unlocking sand. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this develops.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of visuals and just get out in the open. Like iron sharpens iron, man. We're here to make it better. And then, you can tell sometimes when that's not always the case with some people or they're I don't know, I feel strongly about it. But enough of that. Okay, Joseph. This is where I want to end it, man. It was part of the plan the whole time.
Sure. So let's open up the white paper, the official white paper,
I
version
got it.
3,
I
published
got
in
it here.
2020, subsection 3.5, sand.
3.5, he says. 3.5. This is a huge white paper, man. This is gonna take me like 3 podcasts to get through.
Yeah.
I thought
You know,
I thought Joseph was just reciting this off the top of your head.
That would be even
no,
better.
I have it on my screen.
I was like, oh wow.
I don't do
You really
anything
know
off the top
white
of my
paper.
head. I'll tell you that right now. The good thing and the bad thing about me is I don't remember shit, but I always know where to get it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
3.5,
That's why I
bullet
need my
point 2.
visuals.
Bullet point number 2 right there, governance. Sand is a governance token. So we're talking 2020. 2020 until 2024 June. This is a fucking lie, right? But this is what was always sold. Sand is a governance token that allows holders to participate in governance decisions of the platform using a DAO structure. The DAO doesn't exist until now. The structure was obfuscated until now. At least now we know what the structure is. Creators spend sand to acquire assets. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the access. They can exercise voting rights on key elements such as foundation grant attributions, which is most of what this is. You've got foundation money here, to content and game creators, and feature prioritization on the platform roadmap. So it's suggested here that people can suggest features for the platform. That's what this said in the white paper. It also suggests that the money will come from the foundation being the sandbox. So, according to the white paper, if this is still the same plan as what always was, the money will always come from the Sandbox's pocket into the DAO's pocket. At the end of December 2025, it should happen again. How much money is allocated into it? That is the part that we need to use the DAO to make clarity on.
So
As a
far, it's 20
community.
or 25 million. Seb and Cyril mentioned that a couple times.
Yeah. So allocated to this budget at the moment is 15.5 million. Where's the realized, like, if he just said it out loud, that's cool. But that could change tomorrow.
Sure.
I'm saying that as somebody who has
Sure.
watched things change tomorrow 1,000 times. Write it down. Write it down. Show me. Don't tell me. And
Nice.
it says sand owners can vote themselves or delegate voting rights to other players of their choice. There has been no such delegation, right? There's nothing in the DAO that says I can tell Krafter what it is. However, it's been said out loud that in the future that would be possible. So,
Probably through a SIP,
show me,
right?
don't tell me. Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
Krafter using my voting power to vote for a SIP delegation. I haven't seen that. So it's still there on the white paper. There's nothing about this DAO that wasn't already told to us that would come. The question is now the minutia, the implementation of it, and
Devil's in the
how can
details.
how do we make it better? So
Okay.
that's
I
it.
did not read
Always it.
most of this white paper. I read a little bit of it, but I didn't even, if I even 3 years ago, if I had seen the word DAO, I wouldn't have known what I was looking at anyways.
Sure. And that's the
But
interesting
fair.
bit. I
Fair
think
point.
if you go back through it now, if you go back through this, you're going to find a lot of it that's going to make sense and is going to have been done. And you're going to also find a lot of it that just never happened. So
Yeah.
it'll be, can we get back to these roots? The white paper is what sold this product. If everything that was written here is done, then I think number goes up,
Well, I already have a podcast on the list of going through the white paper and comparing it to the DAO. It's a little bit down there, but yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to read their articles of incorporation as a podcast. I'm going to give this thing a nice scrub so I can be ready. I want to be ready. Cool. I
All
did
right.
not realize that. Thanks, Joseph.
Yeah, no problem.
Krafter,
Been in
do you
this
have
game
any?
for years.
Yeah. Krafter, do you have any questions you want to add?
I don't really actually have any questions off the top of my head, to be honest.
All right.
I feel like we did a good job of covering some things though here.
Well, yeah, we
I-
went the distance.
Yeah.
Joseph, what
I
about
think-
you, man? What are you thinking?
Man, just yeah, I don't know, man. Show me some results. Show me who you are. Show out. They've done a lot of good AMAs in different time zones, I guess, but they're basically all on X or Twitter. So like
Yeah.
that's isolating so much of your community away. There's show me how you're going to use that 40,000 annual or whatever it is worth of sand that you actually put in $40,000 worth of time out there to bring the community into this DAO vote. Inform yourselves as special counsel or whatever. But that's it. No real
Cool.
questions. More so like, comment.
Krafter, what is your closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. What did I say? I was skeptically
Wait. I can quote you.
Cautious. I don't remember.
Cautiously skeptical.
Cautiously skeptical. I believe I still am cautiously skeptical, but I do believe that if the right things happen, this could be a very, very cool, successful thing. We just need to continue to talk about it, honestly, is probably one of the more important things, because I feel like every time I am in a discussion about the DAO and what discussions like this, new things pop in my head, and I'm like, oh well, maybe things, if we go this direction, things are going to work a little bit differently, and that's a good thing. So like I think the open communication needs to continue.
Yeah.
And I think that they're definitely like trying to involve the community, but I think even more effort could be put into that. I don't know how and like it's tough because like getting in the forums for the DAO, like it's hard for me to even like remember to go go in there and check them. So like
Yeah.
I don't know like what needs to be done to get more like engagement and awareness around everything, but um, I don't know. Maybe it'll just be like a slow thing over time, but it I don't know. Hopefully people start participating more, because otherwise it's just gonna be kind of like almost like a standstill
Yeah. We go out in a slow
things.
whimper.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, I guess basically
Not
to
on
put
my
a
watch.
put a bow on everything is, if you are part of the SandFam or just even interested in the sandbox, start showing up and voicing your opinions. I know a lot of you are, but even if you're not yet, continue to do so, and do it constructively. That's probably a good thing to put out there. Do it constructively, and have, where you can, at least advice on what you think could be done, because who knows, maybe your idea will spark the next SIP that
Yeah.
pushes the needle forward. So
And
just
said
get
a different
involved.
way, should you choose to do it constructively, you are much more likely to be heard.
True.
Yep. I can confirm that
Yeah.
content that gets moderated on the Discord, some people get pissed off because they'll say FUD, right? But it's always when people just say, you suck. And you're like, well, that's great. Like, tell me how I suck. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Let's
Like,
get past the
tell the
distraction of
sandbox,
the language and get to the real
yeah,
underlining.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we can change to make your experience better. That's the kind of submissions that you need for the DAO. That's the kind of stuff you need to say in the
Yeah.
chat, whatever, to come through and be like, I'm pissed off. It's like, okay, yeah, and like, let's fix it, right? That's the point of the DAO. So,
Joseph, I know you gave a little bit of a final thought, but go ahead and you have any closing remarks?
hey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. You know what I mean? Do your
That call to
thing out
action.
here. Yeah, because the conversations will continue. So stick with them. Um, that's really all I can stress. I've got things that I've said across multiple different conversations and podcasts that I think are tangible solutions. That's what I'm going to present. But I don't see everything. Nobody does. So make your
Yeah.
voice heard. Show up. Say something. Oh, Batman just subscribed to the tier one.
Batman. What up,
There it
Hey.
is.
Batman?
There
Thank
it is.
you.
See that call to action,
Wow, thank you
baby.
for that. That you might very well
Uh,
be my first subscriber ever. I've never really pushed it all that much. It's just I like doing this stuff, but thank you, man.
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Wow. So,
Well,
thank you very much, lurkers in the chat, and also Dr. Metaverso. You were hella active in the chat, so thank you for giving your thoughts about where you stand on some of this stuff. And Hodl, Batman, appreciate you both, all of you. And final thoughts for me is that I'm just excited to see where this goes. I can say the intersection for me between business and gaming in a way that throws in like governance and management and all my project management skills. I feel excited. So I want to be part of the solution, whether that's the council or not. But I want to be here doing this stuff, helping do solutions. So episode 4, we're about to come to a close. Episode 5, I want to do the gathering places for Sandbox DAO. There's my initial intro into all this, Joseph and Krafter, was through the Mochaverse Saturdays with G. He was the one that kind of turned
yep.
me on to what was a DAO. What are we even doing here? I think my first thing coming off mute, when he just let me on stage, I raised my hand and he's like, "Yeah, Lanzer, go ahead." I'm like, "Hey man, I don't know why I'm here, but I want to be here. So can I what do I do?" and that was what began. He's like, "Oh yeah. So you can like then he goes, great take," and he's like, you can look it up online. There's some research, and like really set me down a path to where I can say that I feel like I can start contributing now that I understand that we're all just trying to figure it out, man. We're all just trying to figure it out. I thought there was like a professional DAO thing going on. It's like we're just trying to figure it out. We're all coming with our ideas and all of our stuff, and I'm just one more voice now. Joseph, you're a very well experienced voice, and Krafter, I mean, everyone knows who you are. You and Joseph both. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for spending the hours here going over the details. And I'm just going to keep on hammering away at these episodes. And some of these are going to be some deep, deep dives. Like, I'm going to go ham on those foundation articles, just put on my legal contracting hat and just start going to town on it. Because I'm interested. I'm intrigued. So thank you all. Love it. And Joseph Krafter, appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Have
so
a good
much.
night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.